Chapter 2182. Before anyone realized what was going on, Han Fei had already retreated. His strength would inevitably be met with resistance. It was not a problem to fight Chen Feng now, but if someone stronger came to challenge him, should he fight or not? If he won, he would be ridiculously strong. Even if he was really ridiculously strong, he had to release his power slowly. Also, if he temporarily suppressed his strength to the Pioneer Sea realm, or even lower than these people, he could also grow quickly. After all, there weren't so many kings to fight before, but now there were kings everywhere in the law enforcement camp. If he fought them one by one, his understanding of fighting would definitely be improved. Of course, now was not the time to fight them one by one. Ling Ran said, "The cultivation tower consumes a lot of resources. Even the lowest level cultivation room costs 100 energy crystals a day. So, while it's good to cultivate in the cultivation tower, it's very expensive." Han Fei asked, "What about the most expensive cultivation room?" Ling Ran said, "There isn't the most expensive cultivation room. After all, it's only open to the Pioneer Sea realm. I can only say that the best cultivation rooms cost 1,000 energy crystals a year, which means 365,000 energy crystals a year. This kind of spending power is comparable to a lord-rank powerhouse." Han Fei sneered in his heart. "What do you know about a lord? You don't even need 40 million energy crystals in 100 years. If you can't even get that, how can you call yourself a lord?" Of course, even though the overlord could get his hands on so many energy crystals, it wouldn't be a lot, and he wouldn't use them here. Han Fei grabbed Chen Feng's star shell and said, "Here. There are 320,000 energy crystals here, which is enough to pay for half a year's cultivation." Han Fei guessed that the 100-year tide had just passed, so Chen Feng could save so many energy crystals. Otherwise, Sea Expansion's consumption of energy crystals would be very fast. They needed to exchange for various resources in the Origin Sea with these crystals. If they didn't use them sparingly, they might run out. Ling Ran's eyes widened. That was more than 320,000 energy crystals. They could be exchanged for a lot of resources, but this guy was using them to pay rent? Han Fei took out 10,000 energy crystals and threw them to Ling Ran. "Go back. I'm going to cultivate." Ling Ran was stunned and hurriedly said, "No, you don't have to. I just told you a few things that everyone knows." However, Han Fei was still cold. "Time equals resources. I never waste other people's time." Sensing the firmness in Han Fei's words, Ling Ran couldn't help but hold the star shell and said, "You shouldn't have come here." Han Fei squinted at Ling Ran. Everyone has their own fate. After a while, the so-called cultivation tower was an underground cavern that looked like an abyss. This cavern had a total of 1,000 floors, and inside it were 5,000 cultivation rooms. Among them, there were a total of 500 cultivation rooms that consumed 1,000 energy crystals per day. Han Fei stood on the ground in front of the cultivation tower. On the top floor, there was an old man sitting. Although this old man seemed to be at the peak of the Sea Expansion realm, when Han Fei sensed his aura, he knew he was definitely a hidden heaven-opening realm expert. Of course, even a heaven-opening stage powerhouse was not necessarily that strong. When Han Fei came to the old man, the latter asked lazily, "What's the level?" Han Fei threw a star shell to him. "The highest level of cultivation room for 1 year." The old man couldn't help but look at Han Fei up and down. It was rare for someone to rent a cultivation room for a year. For a Sea Expansion realm expert, energy crystals were still very important resources. But since Han Fei paid, the old man naturally let him go. He threw a card over and said, "Room number 5 on the 32nd floor. Remember to renew the fee when the year is up, or the seal will be automatically removed, and I'll kick you out." As if he didn't hear him, Han Fei grabbed the card and jumped down. The old man finally looked at the sky. "Chen Yen, why do you think so highly of this young talent? You've even sent your perception to me?" Chen Yen smiled. "I'll focus on training him." Chen Yen withdrew his perception and didn't follow him anymore. Han Fei went straight to the cultivation tower to cultivate, which surprised Chen Yen. But to be honest, Han Fei chose the fastest way of cultivation. Idiot Chenfeng, you've given Yi Fenglu a chance to cultivate in the cultivation tower for nothing. If this kid can cultivate here for 10 years, TSK, wouldn't it be equivalent to at least 100 years of cultivation? Then the 30-year agreement with Master Primeval is quite possible. Chen Yen muttered to himself and didn't pay any more attention to him. A sea expansion realm was not worthy of his attention for so long. In the cultivation tower. When Han Fei opened the so-called cultivation room with the token, he found that there seemed to be something wrong with this space. He felt that the primal chaos aura here was especially dense. It was as if there was only a wall separating this place from the boundless void. Large amounts of primal chaos aura could escape from the boundless void. In addition to sensing the chaotic qi, Han Fei also saw a large number of engravings on the walls of the cultivation room, which gave off a quaint vibe. Obviously, these Dao patterns existed for cultivators to visualize and comprehend. If they were lucky, if they could comprehend a little bit from it, their strength would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. In addition, there was also a wisp of pill fragrance in the cultivation room, which seemed to be emitted from the walls of the cultivation room. This kind of fragrance could calm the mind and concentrate. He reckoned that it must be very valuable. But Han Fei guessed that it shouldn't be exclusive to his cultivation room. What the sea expansion realm needed was a lot of chaotic energy, a lot of spiritual energy, and enlightenment. If one could meditate and concentrate on cultivation, the effect of 1 year might be equivalent to 10 years or even longer elsewhere. It's just a small trick. Han Fei sneered contemptuously, but still began to cultivate like a normal sea expansion realm cultivator. But the speed at which he absorbed the chaotic energy, even if it was slow, was more than 3 times faster than that of an ordinary sea expansion realm cultivator. Therefore, after Han Fei entered for only half a month, the old man in the cultivation tower found something wrong and even muttered, "Fuck, this cultivation room is a waste." 1 year later, Han Fei came out of the cultivation room and went straight to the old man. "Excuse me, how do I get to the scavenger arena?" The old man laughed. "Oh, you're going to fight after cultivation? Boy, you're really working hard. I'm going to earn some resources and pay the rent." The old man was speechless. "You're not done yet. You make it sound like the scavenger arena is your home ATM." The old man pointed casually. 800 kilometers away, there is a small world. You'll see it when you get there. There is an entrance. It was indeed a good choice to build an arena in a small world. With the strength of the sea expansion realm, it was difficult to break the small world. And the small world could accommodate a lot of people, so it was indeed a good choice to use it as an arena. There were a lot of people going to the arena, so it didn't take Han Fei much effort to find the place. The entrance to the small world was built like a magnificent building. Every day, people came in and out, and the population capacity might be dozens or even millions. When Han Fei walked in, a supervisor at the reception desk of the arena immediately cast his eyes on him. Every day, there were too many people coming to the scavenger arena, including many sea expansion realm experts. After all, there were high, low, and high arenas here, respectively for the sea expansion realm, the venerable realm, and those below the venerable realm. "Sir, do you want to buy a ticket to enter? In another 2 hours, the sea expansion realm exchange competition will begin. The ticket for this competition only costs 8 energy crystals." Han Fei said indifferently, "I'm here to participate in the challenge." The man's eyes lit up. "Participate in the challenge? Then our scavenger arena will welcome you even more." "Sir, what mode do you want to participate in?" Han Fei asked. "Mode?" The man frowned. "Sir, have you never been to the scavenger arena before?" Han Fei shook his head. "It's my first time here." The man's interest was obviously greatly reduced, but since it was his job, he still explained, "There are several modes to participate in the battle. The most common one is to become a resident challenger of our arena. Every time a match starts, the winner can win 1% of the share of each game. That is to say, the challenger can get 1% of the number of people sold in the arena. The loser can only get a consolation prize of 100 energy crystals. If you win 10 games in a row, You can get 2% of the share, and so on, up to 50% of the share. Seeing that Han Fei's eyes didn't waver at all, the man couldn't help but say, the second mode is the competition, which means that the participants have to use as many combat skills as possible and fight brilliantly and dangerously. But the two sides don't really fight but just fight for the audience. In this way, after the match, both sides can get 2% of the profit. Han Fei thought to himself, isn't this a fake competition? Are you trying to fool me? Han Fei asked, what about the third mode? The man said, the third mode is not common. For example, a life and death battle. If the participant wins, not only can he take away all the opponent's resources, but he can also get 1/10 of the arena's share. Of course, a life and death battle is extremely rare. Generally speaking, people won't come here to have a life and death battle unless they have a deep hatred for each other. In fact, most of the audience are venerables and most of them are here to learn. Sir, since it's your first time here, I can apply to see if you can participate in a competition. Han Fei shook his head. No, just the first mode. But your competition speed is too slow. I want to fight 10 games a day. Chapter 2183. 10 games a day? Lu Chen never expected that someone would make such a request. Is this guy stupid or crazy? 10 games a day? What makes you think you can do that? Lu Chen said, this guest. The cooperation between the Sea Expansion Realm and the Scavenger Arena can't be established easily. Even if I apply for the second kind of competition, it can't be approved in a day or two. It's even more impossible to fight 10 games a day. Sure. Han Fei said indifferently, which made Lu Chen feel incredulous. Where did this lunatic come from? Han Fei said, my name is Yi Fenglu. When Lu Chen heard the name Yi Fenglu, for some reason, he felt a sense of familiarity. But since this person came to the Scavenger Arena for the first time, he certainly didn't know him. He said, fellow cultivator, this is not how the arena works. You can't fight as many games as you want. There are tens of thousands of Sea Expansion Realm powerhouses in the Scavenger City. If every one of them fights like this, where can I find so many opponents to fight with in the Scavenger Arena? Besides, you can't guarantee that you will win the battle of the Sea Expansion Realm. There are countless people and countless energy crystals involved. While Lu Chen was trying to reason with them, he suddenly heard a voice in his ears. Say yes. Lu Chen frowned. Is this the voice of the owner? Lu Chen couldn't help but look at Han Fei in surprise. Who is this guy? Why did the owner speak in person? Lu Chen's attitude immediately changed 180 degrees, and he said, customer, if you want to play 10 games a day, that's no problem. However, we still need some time to find people for this rare competition. May I ask Brother Yi, where are you from? Han Fei said, law enforcement camp, outer camp. Lu Chen frowned. An outer camp disciple has to fight 10 games a day. Why is this person valued by the owner? However, since the owner said so, Lu Chen could only do as he was told. He continued to ask, Brother Yi, how many origin seas have been opened up? Han Fei said, a little more than 70,000 kilometers. Lu Chen asked, what weapons are you good at? Han Fei said, knives. Lu Chen. After Lu Chen learned some basic information about Han Fei, he took out a thick booklet and said, Sir, the Scavenger Arena needs to conduct 3 basic battles to determine your strength. Then, rank me according to your strength. Lu Chen smiled. Currently, there are a total of 26,872 kings in the Scavenger Arena. However, there were only about 10,000 people left in the city. So, if you want to fight 10 matches a day, you have to first determine your strength, then move up in order to challenge them one by one. Basic battle? Lu Chen, this can be carried out today. However, the basic combatants will have to wait for a moment. A moment later, in the depths of the Scavenger Arena, Lu Chen came to a place that looked like a library and bowed to a middle-aged man who was flipping through a book of combat techniques. Lu Chen said, Master. The middle-aged man casually raised his hand and said, arrange for one person to be ranked around 7,000, one person to be ranked around 6,000, and one person to be ranked around 5,000. Lu Chen couldn't help but be surprised. Master, those who can be ranked 5,000 in the scavenger arena have opened up at least 80,000 to 90,000 kilometers of origin sea, and some even have completely opened up their origin sea. Even in the scavenger hall and the law enforcement camp, they are really at the top. The middle-aged man snorted faintly. Don't underestimate this person. Even the top experts on the third floor of the law enforcement camp can't withstand his knife. The ranking I gave is conservative. If he wins all 3 battles, I'll give him a ranking of around 4,000. Otherwise, I'm afraid this person can get a 50% share all the way. Wow, Lu Chen was dumbfounded. Who the hell is this guy? Why does Master value him so much? He even thought of his strength as the 4,000th on the scavenger arena's combat power list. The weakest king in this position had a sea expansion of 90,000 kilometers, and they were basically all powerhouses who had completely opened the sea. What they were waiting for and pursuing was just an opportunity to open the sky. Lu Chen's face became solemn. This person was so strong, but he had never heard of his name. This was simply unforgivable. Lu Chen cupped his hands. I'll arrange it right away. When Lu Chen came back, he directly invited Han Fei to the VIP area. There were also strong and weak sea expansion realm experts. Under the guidance of the owner, Lu Chen felt that this person was probably much stronger than he imagined. Lu Chen said, "Brother Yi, please follow me into the small world. I need to assess your basic strength, so I will arrange 3 battles for sea expansion realm experts. During the assessment period, our scavenger arena will notify all sea expansion monarchs that are within the approved range and above. If there are no special problems, your challenge will be accepted." Han Fei nodded. But Lu Chen continued, "Because our arena is fair and just, your ranking competition will be open to the public in a normal form. The rules will be the same as the normal rules. If you win, you can draw 1% of the ticket price." After half an hour, in front of the entrance to the small world in the scavenger hall, 3 sea expansion realm experts gathered. One of them said, "Boss Lu, why are you here? Your ranking is 1,000 places higher than mine. Is it necessary to arrange such a big ranking competition?" The burly man snorted. "Who knows? But if I help the arena assess the combat power, I can get 2% of the ticket price. It's not a wasted trip." Among the 3 of them, 10,000 scaled clan women said, "It seems that I'm only here to make up the numbers." The man next to her smiled. 7,000 is not bad. I wonder who is so strong in a ranking competition. At this moment, Han Fei was watching the audience of more than 500,000 people in the small world. In the field, only 2 average sea expansion realm experts were fighting fiercely with each other. The frequency and trajectory of the battle could be seen clearly by the venerable realm experts. To put it bluntly, the 2 of them were acting, and the audience was mostly here to see if they had any experience or inspiration. Han Fei did a rough calculation. There were 500,000 people in a competition, and the fee was 8 energy crystals. For the scavenger main city, this fee was not high. The income from this competition alone could reach 4 million energy crystals, and even if 1% was deducted, it would be 40,000 energy crystals. No wonder even this kind of competition had to be declared and then queued up. For the sea expansion realm experts, wasn't this just picking up money? Although the sea expansion realm experts could get a lot of energy crystals, who wouldn't want to earn tens of thousands of appearance fees for a single fight? Of course, for Han Fei, resources were not his goal. His real goal was to let everyone see that he was becoming stronger. After half an hour, the battle on the field was over, and the host of the sea expansion realm said, "This competition is over. Today, due to the unexpected situation, a ranking competition of the sea expansion realm will begin in only half an hour." Ranking competition? It's just a ranking competition. Forget it. The combat level of this ranking competition is too high. I can't understand it at all. It's a waste of energy crystals. Someone sneered. What do you know? Even if you feel the slightest difference in the ranking competition, it will be a great harvest. Someone sighed. How many people can feel the slightest difference in the ranking competition? Don't be noisy. Listen to what the host has to say. The host said, "In this ranking competition, the approved contestant is Yi Fenglu, a newcomer of the law enforcement camp, whose origin sea is 75,000 kilometers wide, and he is good at knife dao. The approved contestants are Lin Qijuan, ranked 6,962 on the sea expansion list, Chu Mo, ranked 6,012, and Lu Feiming, ranked 5,007. In this ranking competition, the gap in strength is so big that it has never been heard of. It can be seen that Yi Fenglu must be very strong. Even the ranking competition will be very exciting. What? The gap in the 3 battles is almost 2,000 places? Is it so high at the beginning? The level of the arena is 7,000. His origin sea should have reached 70,000 kilometers, right? Not only that, Lin Qijuan, known as the Snake King, is also good at poison dao. Her weapon is the Void Whip. Someone said, Vajra heavy rod, Chu Mo. This person's rod is as heavy as a mountain. He is a body refining expert. He hasn't been out for a long time. I don't know if his strength has improved. Someone sneered. Although Chu Mo is strong, even Lu Feiming is here. This guy's associated spirit is a flood dragon. It is said that the flood dragon has signs of atavism. I'm afraid that the flood dragon is no weaker than him. The referee shouted, "Those who want to watch can stay. Those who don't, leave quickly." There is only less than half an hour before the battle starts. In Han Fei's ears, only a few people left after a round of communication. Someone said, "What if we can gain something in this ranking competition? We can get a few energy crystals. Let's take the gamble," someone said. "Anyway, as soon as they make a move, we will know whether we should watch the next round or not. If we can't even understand their moves, the next round will be meaningless." Chapter 2184. Han Fei had underestimated the strength of the scavenger arena. In only half an hour, although more than 50% of the audience had left, more people came in than Han Fei expected. Among them, there were many powerhouses in the Pioneer Sea realm. It could even be said that Han Fei sensed as many as thousands of Pioneer Sea realm powerhouses. On the law enforcement camp side, a brawny expert from the 10,000 scales was surrounded by some weaker kings. Someone next to him said, "Brother Shan Zhe, Yi Fenglu didn't even stay in the law enforcement camp for a day before he went to the cultivation tower. I think he's afraid of meeting you, Brother Mountain Zhe." Someone said, "He took Chunfeng's resources and stayed in the cultivation tower for a year. It's said that he opened a training room that costs 1,000 energy crystals. How extravagant!" Shan Zhe snorted. "Didn't he say that he could kill Chunfeng with one slash? Although Chunfeng's combat ability isn't good, he has good life-saving methods. Yi Fenglu can't be weak if he can kill Chunfeng with one slash. It's interesting that a newcomer can be so strong." Apart from the law enforcement camp side, many Pioneer Sea realm experts were also here. They were scavengers, who liked the arena because it was their biggest casino. Someone asked curiously, "I'm told that in this ranking match, there are more than 2,000 places. Even Lu Feiming came. Do you know who Yi Fenglu is?" Most people slightly shook their heads. Someone said, "I don't know about the law enforcement camp." Someone recalled, "I think I remember. It said that a newcomer in the law enforcement camp killed a king with one slash a year ago. It was a life and death battle. I think it's him." Killing a king with one slash? In the arena, the number of spectators had reached 1 million, and the 1-hour time limit was up. The host roared, "Next, our first ranking match is about to officially begin. First, let's welcome our Snake King, Lin Qijuan, who ranks 6962 in the arena. Snake King once won 8 matches in a row. She fought 498 times in the arena. She won 338 times, drew 46 times, and lost 114 times. She's a strong king. Welcome to the stage, Snake King." When the audience saw Lin Qijuan walking seductively onto the stage, tens of thousands of scaled tribes' honorable ones expressed their love in a frenzy and cheered loudly. "Snake King, kill him. Junjun, I love you. Lady Qi, I'll bet on you even if I lose everything," the host grinned. "Next, let's welcome our approved contestant, Yi Fenglu. Although he has just entered the enforcement camp, he is the strongest newcomer in 100 years. Also, this is Yi Fengliu's first battle in the scavenger arena, so he will definitely go all out. Let's wait and see. Tisk, he has just entered the law enforcement camp, yet he dares to participate in such a high-class ranking competition. Has something wrong with his brain? He's just a newcomer, and it's his first time in the scavenger arena. How can he win? On the field, Han Fei appeared indifferently, without the slightest expression on his face. In his hand was a long saber with a scabbard. When Han Fei came to the field, Lin Qijuan sneered. Won't the scabbard affect your speed of drawing? Han Fei said indifferently, it's just a ranking match. I don't want to hurt you. Phew, it was just a single sentence, but it immediately caused countless people to hiss. Someone cursed, is he really that arrogant? Is he not even going to draw his saber when facing Master Snake King? Someone sneered. I've never seen anyone use a saber with a scabbard. I'm afraid he's just showing off. Someone complained, if he loses, this person won't even have any face left. Hearing Han Fei's words, Lin Qijuan sneered. No matter how confident you are, I will try my best to let you know that not everyone can challenge you even if you rank 7,000. Han Fei looked at the referee in the distance. Hurry up, there are still 2 more matches. You. Seeing that Han Fei didn't give her any face and didn't even want to talk to her, Lin Qijuan's blood boiled. She grabbed the air and a blood-colored short whip appeared in her hand. Seeing this, the referee knew that Lin Qijuan was already angry. This was the best opportunity. The referee shouted, the first ranking match officially begins now. The place where Lin Qijuan was exploded. It was this woman, holding the short whip like a saber, who rushed over violently. Like a giant snake tens of thousands of meters long, it opened its bloody mouth. Hiss, wow! So violent right from the start? Is Yi Fenglu stupid? He didn't even dodge? He stood still. Is he going to be beaten? Don't tell me he can't even take a blow from the Snake King. As for Han Fei, he just raised his head slightly and looked at the attack that was like a big crack in the void, and the corners of his mouth curled up, which was rare for him. Whips varied in length and hardness. The short whip was as heavy as fine steel, and its explosive power was even stronger. At the moment when the whip mark appeared, Han Fei's figure instantly disappeared. When he looked carefully, he had already collided with Lin Qijuan. He held the short whip with one hand and completely resisted the power of the short whip with his body. Lin Qijuan was shocked. Is he a body-refining master? In close combat, Han Fei only swept his long saber, but he didn't use it. Lin Qijuan quickly reacted and lowered her head to dodge, while Han Fei raised his foot and swept it, and the void exploded. Lin Qijuan didn't expect that there would be people in the Pioneer Sea realm who liked this kind of primitive close combat. When she wanted to retreat, she found that the short whip was buckled. It was too late for her to retreat, so she could only raise her hand to block. However, Han Fei's kick burst out, and Lin Qijuan was swept thousands of kilometers away in an instant, crashing into the bottom of the sea, setting off ripples and a monstrous tsunami. When everyone saw Lin Qijuan clearly, they found that half of her body had exploded, and it turned out to be a half-snake. She had actually merged with an associated spirit at the last moment. Even so, she was almost blown up by this kick, which showed how strong Han Fei's instantaneous explosive power was. Hiss, countless people were dumbfounded. So strong. This is the first person I've seen who almost blew up a king with a kick. Is Yi Fenglu so strong? His physique has reached such a terrifying level? It's over. I've underestimated this guy. Chu Mo, who was in the second round of the ranking match, narrowed his eyes slightly after seeing Han Fei's kick and murmured, he's also a body refiner. But Lin Qijuan was too careless and let him get close to her. Otherwise, she would still have a chance. Lin Qijuan didn't expect that she would almost be blown up in the first round. At this moment, after her body recovered and her associated spirit fused, her eyes were scarlet. I won't make the same mistake twice. 10,000 snakes approached the abyss. Han Fei was surrounded by a creepy snake cave. Long snakes coiled around him, dark green poisonous things burst out, and a 10,000-meter-long snake raised its head. Pumph! Han Fei stabbed the knife into the void and punched the sea, and the terrifying ripples directly blew up the entire snake cave phantom. As he waved his hand, the long knife broke through the void and hit Lin Qijuan. The latter hit him with the skull of the giant snake, but to her surprise, Han Fei's punch barely blocked it. Even with the handle of the knife, his knife intent melted into the sky and pierced the snake's head with one blow. Because their strength was not on the same level at all, when Lin Qijuan was about to resist Han Fei's knife with all her strength, Han Fei disappeared again. When everyone saw it clearly, Han Fei was already in front of Lin Qijuan again. Lin Qijuan waved her snake tail, but Han Fei kicked again. Seeing this scene, countless people were speechless. Bam! In the field, although Lin Qijuan only flew hundreds of kilometers this time, when she came to her senses, Han Fei was already holding a long knife and putting it on her neck. At that moment, Lin Qijuan was speechless. Sure enough, there was a reason why he regarded her as the weakest candidate. This person was very strong, so strong that he could crush her in all aspects. And this was exactly what Han Fei wanted. A ranking match that spanned 2,000 places was held. If she couldn't even win the first round, how could she grow quickly? Therefore, not only did she have to win this battle, but she had to win a clean and overwhelming victory. At this moment, the field was silent. No one expected that Han Fei was so strong that Lin Qijuan didn't even have a chance to fight back. The referee was also stunned for a long time, and then he reacted. The first ranking match, Yi Fenglu wins. Someone exclaimed, "Fuck, I bet a lot on the Snake King." Someone sighed. "I should have guessed it. The Snake King is just the first candidate. There are stronger people like Chu Mo and Lu Feiming." Lin Qijuan, who was defeated, actually didn't feel much psychological disappointment about this defeat. She had thought that she was going to lose. The only thing that disappointed her was that she lost too easily. Are the newcomers so strong now? As for Chu Mo, the candidate for the second round, he also felt the pressure at this moment. Judging from the strength that Han Fei showed, he might not be weaker than him. The referee shouted, "The second ranking match is about to begin. Those who haven't bought the ticket and those who are ready, leave the field in half an hour. Those who don't leave, buy the ticket immediately." Chapter 2185. On the field. Han Fei stood proudly in the arena, his long knife floating beside his feet. He looked at Chu Mo, who was walking over slowly with a solemn face. The latter said in a deep voice, "Are you good at melee combat? How about we have a melee fight?" Chu Mo opened his hands and then clenched them into fists, making a cracking sound. A pair of half-length gloves appeared on his hands, and the scales on his body gradually began to glow red. Han Fei said indifferently, "Okay." Many spectators who were about to leave immediately stopped when they heard this. If a king fought in melee, it would be worth watching. Just now, when Han Fei killed Lin Qijuan in 2 rounds, his speed was so fast that only those at the Pioneer Sea realm could see it clearly. Those at the Venerable realm could only see the frozen picture at the moment of their fight. Perhaps because Han Fei's moves were too simple, most people didn't understand anything in the first round. They only knew that Han Fei was extremely strong and was just a body cultivator. Someone said, "Forget it. I feel that this Yi Fenglu is not an ordinary person. It's unheard of for a newcomer to defeat the Snake King in 2 rounds. I'm afraid that there will be a good show in the arena in the future." Someone said, "I really don't want to learn anything from him. I just want to see how 2 body cultivators fight." And among them, many body cultivators couldn't help but ask, what kind of body refining technique does Yi Fenglu cultivate? Why does it look so strong? In fact, Han Fei had also thought about this question. Body refining was his advantage, and this was something that he had to show. The character he had turned into had an amazing physique. In terms of body refinement, Han Fei had obtained some body refinement techniques from Xue Fei, Ding Yi, and a group of heaven-opening state experts that he had killed, and he had deduced them. The result of the deduction was naturally not as good as the void body refining technique, or even the pure mysterious body. It was only about the same as the chaotic original body cultivated by the grand essence cultivators. Therefore, the body refining technique he cultivated could also stand up to scrutiny. After the period it took an incense to burn, the number of spectators did not decrease, but increased from 1 million to around 1.3 million. The referee roared. In the second round, Chu Mo has won 19 games in a row. He had participated in 687 matches in the arena. He had won 498 times, tied 54 times, and lost 135 times. Chu Mo, also known as Fist King Chu, I believe many people know about the Nirvana punch. So, is everyone looking forward to the close combat between the two body cultivators? Let the battle begin. With the referee's shout, Chu Mo, like Lin Chijuan, made the first move. In a battle between experts, it was always beneficial to take the initiative to attack first. Once one's strength had been stimulated to a certain extent, it needed to be released. The so-called counterattack and finding the opponent's weakness was actually a bit nonsensical. In a situation where the difference in strength wasn't too great, it was very difficult to strike after the enemy had struck. Chu Mo's combat style was very similar to Han Fei's in the past. He used his ultimate move at the beginning. He leaped into the air, and a spiral condensed from chaotic energy appeared on his fist, rolling up the void, and punched out a void vortex fist mark. What? The Great Nirvana fist seal was used right at the start? So fierce? Wow, we're both body cultivators. Let's see how Yi Fenglu is going to block it. It's worth staying in this ranking match. This fist mark is guided by chaotic energy and circulated in the meridians, instantly triggering a void vortex that can affect a large amount of void power. Let's see how Yi Fenglu is going to block it. Facing Chu Mo's punch, the scales on Han Fei's body also began to glow, spiritual energy and chaotic energy were vibrating, and his vitality soared into the sky. Han Fei also punched out, but it wasn't the sacrificing punch, but an ordinary fist mark that was fused with the law of gravity and borrowed a trace of the way of nature. Behind Han Fei, tides surged, and with the power of the tides, he punched out a crimson glow. And boom, ripples flashed, and the waves burst out one after another, directly hitting the protective barrier of the arena. The protective barrier shook again and again under the impact, and the turbulence surged where the two fought. Chu Mo's Nirvana punch was shattered, and he was flung thousands of kilometers away. Han Fei took half a step back, stepped on a huge wave, and with a bang he continued to rush to Chu Mo. Chu Mo used his ultimate move, but he couldn't shake Han Fei. Now Han Fei was really fighting in close combat, and the two of them naturally confronted each other, neither willing to give in. No matter what kind of battle, the battle of body tempering was always the craziest and the most exciting. No matter how strong the experts were, they couldn't help but have a grave expression when their fists collided with flesh. Shan Zhe, whose ranking was broken by Han Fei, couldn't help but nod slightly when he saw Han Fei's power. It's not that Chu Mo is weak, but that Yi Fenglu is too strong. If I'm not mistaken, it should be because his bloodline level is very high, and he is a body-tempering cultivator, so his strength is naturally strong. Someone snorted. Fortunately, he suddenly rose 1,000 places. He can't end the battle in 2 rounds like just now. Suddenly, someone said, "Look." In the arena, Han Fei's scales suddenly spurted out a dazzling luster, and Han Fei's punching speed was getting faster and faster. What? Is his strength changing so fast? If he wants to punch out such a powerful force with every blow, he must have at least a 9th-grade spiritual heritage. Han Fei's speed was getting faster and faster, and he didn't care about the power of Chu Mo's bombardment on him at all. Han Fei's fists were almost turning into light. No, look, the seawater around Chu Mo is seriously compressed. This Yi Fenglu has mastered the Tao of gravity. Wow, how strong is the body-tempering cultivator and the Tao of gravity? Chu Mo couldn't keep up with Han Fei's rhythm anymore. Finally, everyone saw Chu Mo attack. As soon as the King Kong heavy rod was launched, it was like the water in the sea or the collapse of a mountain. Clang! At the moment when Chu Mo attacked, Han Fei held his long knife horizontally and took 3 steps back. Then he gently turned the long knife like a stick, grabbed the stick backhandedly, and swept his foot across. Chu Mo was sent flying thousands of miles away like a cannonball. Han Fei snorted coldly, turned the long knife in his hand, and threw it from his hand. Chu Mo attacked in the air, but his strength was obviously not enough. Clang! Chu Mo smashed into the bottom of the sea again, and Han Fei leaped 1,000 miles away, holding the long knife, and slashed in the air. At the bottom of the sea, rolling ripples surged in all directions. When everyone took a closer look, they found that the long rod in Chu Mo's hand was bent, and Han Fei's scabbard was placed on Chu Mo's neck. Gulp, he won again? What a powerful strength! What a powerful burst of power! This power, didn't he just expand his origin sea to 80,000 kilometers? How can he be so strong? Someone said, the origin sea is indeed the origin sea. This person's bloodline must be high, and his spiritual heritage is also very high. Besides, he has the law of gravity. How can he be weak? Countless spectators gasped, and even the kings who came to watch were shocked. Many kings exclaimed, he's just a newbie. Is he going to rank 5,000? Someone was shocked. Don't forget, he hasn't used his knife yet. The referee roared. The second-ranking match, Yi Feng Lu wins. The third match is about to begin. You have half an hour to buy your tickets and leave. Lu Chen, who was secretly receiving Han Fei, was speechless. Is this guy really so strong? Fortunately, the leader was right. Otherwise, I would have offended this guy. The referee was still building momentum. The third one to fight is the Dragon King, Lu Feiming. Everyone, do you want to see the Flood Dragon? Do you want to see the Flood Dragon? Today, your chance is here. The Dragon King, ranked 5,007th, cultivates both energy and physique. He has participated in 892 battles in the arena, won 782 times, tied 37 times, and lost 73 times. This is the Scavenger Arena, the real king. Let's welcome the Dragon King. The moment Lu Feiming stepped onto the battlefield, he looked at the long knife at Han Fei's feet and said lightly, "It seems that you are not going to unsheath your knife." Han Fei said indifferently, "It depends on your strength to draw it out of the sheath." Lu Feiming smiled. "I'm curious about what your associated spirit is." Han Fei smiled. "You will see it when it's time." Outside, Chen Yan had received the news. As a talent that even Zhao Honghuang valued, Chen Yan didn't dare to be careless. In the dark, Chen Yan came. Seeing that Han Fei had won 2 games in a row but hadn't drawn his knife, he couldn't help saying, "Brother Nya, I'm afraid that your arena won't be stable for some time in the future." The leader of the arena was named Nya Yunxiang. Needless to say, he was strong. Since he could control such a large arena in the main city, he couldn't be weak, just like Chen Yan couldn't be weak. At this moment, the third match was about to begin, and the number of spectators had reached 1.5 million. Many people heard that there was a huge commotion in the arena and hurried over. At this moment, the referee shouted, "Close the entrance of the arena. The third-ranking match will begin in 100 minutes. Chapter 2186. Based on Han Fei's current performance, he knew that he hadn't reached the level of the so-called heavenly talent that only appeared once in 10,000 years. Many people were even looking forward to Han Fei winning all 3 battles. As long as he won the third round, Han Fei's strength would be fixed at around 5,000, and he would only have the right to challenge upwards, not downwards. And most of the strong were strong, so the difficulty of Han Fei's challenge was getting higher and higher. And the real experts were not afraid of Han Fei's challenge. It was just a challenge. Defeating a Heaven's Chosen One was something worth remembering. In the field, 100 breaths had passed. Amidst the sounds of discussion, the referee shouted, "The third round of the ranking match will now officially begin." As usual, Han Fei didn't take action immediately. Similarly, Lu Feiming did not make his move immediately. Instead, he sneered, "I suggest that you draw your saber first. Otherwise, if I really make my move, I'm afraid you won't have a chance. I don't think you can survive one attack from me." Oomph. Some people were good at using companion spirits, but most people's companion spirits were not as strong as their own. Lu Feiming waved his hand, and a sea-ferocious beast that was hundreds of miles long bent its body. Flood dragon! Someone exclaimed, "This thing is very powerful." Someone sighed. How long has it been since Lu Feiming fought in the arena? I'm afraid his strength has already entered the top 5,000, right? Name: Flood Dragon, Lu Feiming's companion spirit. Introduction: a half-blood dragon born from the Dragon Clan and the Great Flood Dragon. Due to its impure bloodline, it cannot enter the Dragon Clan. The Flood Dragon's power could reach the profound. Possessing the power of the Azure Dragon, its speed could be extremely fast. Its defense was extremely strong, and when faced with absolute power, it could negate 80% of the force. The Flood Dragon had the ability to go berserk, which could double the strength of its master. Level 108 Quality: Ancient Xenogen Realm, Sea Expansion, contains chaotic energy, 10,080 strands, battle skills. Bloody Claw, Sea Dragon Roar, Dragon Tail Whip, Divine Eye, Frenzy, Uncollectible, None, Unabsorbable. When Han Fei saw the information of the Flood Dragon, he finally understood why Lu Feiming was so confident and wanted him to attack. It turned out that it was because of the Flood Dragon's defense. If the Flood Dragon and Lu Feiming were to fuse, then this person's defense would increase by several folds. As for Lu Feiming, he was a dual cultivator of magic and body. His physique should not be weak either. It would not be easy to pierce through him with absolute strength. Han Fei calculated in his heart. This Lu Feiming was a very good combat standard. In the short term, he would set his goal at Lu Feiming's level. Of course, this was Lu Feiming's combat power after fusing with the Flood Dragon, not Lu Feiming himself. Bang! The Flood Dragon flicked its tail, and Han Fei suddenly burst out. The seawater exploded, and Han Fei had already punched. With the size of a human, he punched the Flood Dragon. A power comparable to the one he had just fought with Chu Mo burst out. However, this time, the Flood Dragon didn't retreat, but Han Fei was knocked back hundreds of meters by the Flood Dragon. Even so, many people still cried out in surprise. Was this guy still human? He actually used pure strength to contend against the Flood Dragon and actually blocked its tail. What do you know? The Flood Dragon obviously didn't use his full strength. Yi Fenglu didn't necessarily use his full strength. Just in the first two battles, I feel that Yi Fenglu didn't really show his strength. As if to prove what this person said, when a sky-splitting sharp claw drew across the sky and fell on the top of Han Fei's head. Han Fei held his long knife horizontally, blocking the attack above his head. The giant claw that covered half of the arena was blocked by Han Fei's broadsword. The kings only saw that under Han Fei's body, the seawater compressed, reversed gravity, and poured into Han Fei. Humph! Han Fei turned his hand into a giant hand that covered the sky, grabbed the dragon's giant claw, and squeezed it violently. Rumble! Lu Feiming couldn't help but be shocked. This person could actually block the huge power of the Flood Dragon? But he was just shocked. Lu Feiming shouted in a low voice. Fuse! The giant Flood Dragon and Lu Feiming merged. His body doubled in size, his muscles bulged, and a dragon roar burst out of his mouth. Someone exclaimed, "The Sea Dragon Roar, a soul attack. Can Yi Fenglu withstand it?" Swish! Swish! The long knife in Han Fei's hand rotated twice, and a mighty knife light slashed out. This slash was simple and plain, and it was made with a scabbard. What? The knife cuts the soul? This person fuses his soul into the knife. How can he deal with the endless dragon roar like this? Among the spectating experts, only a few could understand what was going on. In the dark, Nie Yunxiang smiled and said, "This newcomer of the law enforcement camp is very strong. His knife art has entered the way of the heavens, and his killing nature is extremely strong. Where did they find such a talent?" Chen Yen said with a smile, "I don't know how Xue Fei got the luck to meet this kid. You should know about Xue Fei's tax reduction, right? It's because of this kid." Nie Yunxiang couldn't help but say, "That's a bit interesting. It seems that Xue Fei values this kid very much." Chen Yen said with a smile, he does have a reason to value him. Under Han Fei's knife, the sea was divided, and the soul attack of the sea dragon roar was cut open by Han Fei, unable to hurt him at all. Han Fei snorted coldly. Flood dragon? Just as a little gold. Chirps, a pair of golden red wings bloomed in the battlefield. As an ancient mutant, Little Gold's speed was unparalleled. Besides, Little Gold specialized in thunder. After opening the sky, it awakened the Thunder Clone, the soul-destroying Thunder Claw, and the previous Thunder Domain also turned into a thunderstorm. But what is that? Is that a fish? Or a legendary bird? Its whole body is shining with golden light. It doesn't look weak. This weird companion spirit is also in the sea expansion realm. Fuse. As Han Fei roared, a pair of golden red wings suddenly appeared behind him. Swish. At that moment, Han Fei turned into a flash of light and flashed past. That speed directly climbed to the extreme. Lu Feiming's strong body that had just fused was punched thousands of miles away. Swish. 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 Light and shadows raged all over the sky, and Lu Feiming was stunned. He could barely see the trajectory of Han Fei's attack. However, he wanted to intercept Han Fei, but he couldn't hit Han Fei at all. Lu Feiming roared, "If you have the ability, let's fight fair and square." When Han Fei stopped, he looked at Lu Feiming indifferently and said coldly, "I just want to tell you that even if your companion spirit is strong, it has a weakness. Since you want to fight fair and square, then try to take a knife from me." Many people were shocked when they heard this. Is he finally going to use his knife? In this case, does he still need to use his knife? To be honest, I have no idea what he did just now. I just saw Lu Feiming flying in the air, and in the blink of an eye, he was covered with cuts and bruises. With the absolute advantage of speed, it seems that there is no suspense in this battle. Some people who had suppressed Han Fei to win couldn't help but scold. "Why are you pretending at this time? Just win with speed. Why do you still want to fight head-on?" And Lu Feiming thought that he could easily resist Han Fei. However, the actual situation was completely different from what he had imagined. This Yi Fenglu seemed to be an all-rounder. When a body cultivator had absolute speed and the means to break the soul attack, he had already stood at the peak of the sea expansion realm. At this moment, Lu Feiming thought that fighting Yi Fenglu head-on was his only chance. He shouted in a low voice, and a burst of red blood chi burst out of his body. Under the violent body, his eyes were shining with red light. One of his arms turned into a dragon claw, and a dazzling light appeared in his eyes. A dazzling light appeared in his eyes. It was still a spiritual attack. This was his strongest spiritual attack. He thought that a person like Han Fei should have a soul attack. However, Han Fei held the knife with one hand and didn't draw it out of the sheath. Lightning suddenly appeared on the sheath, and Little Gold's thunderstorm all went into Han Fei's knife. Facing the dazzling light, Han Fei pushed the knife with his palm. Although he wouldn't use the Dao Convergent Sword, this knife was full of knife intent and the support of the Thunder Dao. Crack, 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 the lightning Taoist aura was shattered. Someone was speechless. Son of a bitch, is this the knife he mentioned? Someone stared at this knife and fell into deep thought. A challenger exclaimed, "The sword Dao is so terrifying. The killing intent is too strong." Someone gasped. The Dao belongs to the knife. If he doesn't draw it out, what should he do after drawing it out? Facing Lu Feiming's violent giant claw, Han Fei ignored it and pierced it with his knife. Before the ferocious behemoth touched Han Fei, it had already been paralyzed. Puff, 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 Lu Feiming's whole arm was turned into nothingness under this knife. The remaining power of the knife, after shattering Lu Feiming's arm, flew for thousands of miles and hit the protective barrier. A crack appeared on the protective barrier, which scared many people and made them step back. Fortunately, the protective barrier was repaired immediately. Someone exclaimed, "Shoot, I was scared to death. I thought I was going to die." He's so strong. He won 3 battles in a row and can't detect Yi Fengliu's strength even though he is 2,000 places away from us? No. Actually, we can detect that he has fought with Lu Feiming for the longest time and has exposed the most trump cards. Now, we just need to wait for him to really draw his knife. Someone shouted in a low voice, "I have an epiphany. No, I have to go back to cultivate." Someone suddenly laughed. "So that's how it is, so that's how it is. I understand, clanged Han Fei put the long knife on his shoulder and said indifferently, "Dragon is just as is." The referee couldn't help but gasp and then shouted, "The third round of the ranking match, Yi Feng Lu wins." Han Fei looked at the knife and then turned around silently. When he passed by Lu Chen, he said lightly, "Let's settle our share. When I can challenge again, come to room number 5 on the 32nd floor of the cultivation tower." Gulp. Lu Chen swallowed. Oh. Yes, I'll settle your share for Brother Yi." Han Fei didn't know that after he left, there were still people immersed in that knife and couldn't extricate themselves. Chapter 2187. On the second day after Han Fei went back to cultivate, Lu Chen came to find him. The reason was that Han Fei's sudden rise had attracted the attention of many strong people. Before his challenge began, many people had already begun to make appointments to fight him. It was said that it was because of Han Fei's last strike that many people felt touched and felt a glimmer of opportunity, so it attracted their attention. Besides, they heard that Han Fei's combat power was amazing, so many people wanted to see the scene of Han Fei drawing his sword. They felt that a sword that had been hidden for so long must be different, and they might be able to learn something from it. At this time, in fact, many people had forgotten Han Fei's original origin. However, there was also a small number of people secretly negotiating, thinking that since a mere human dared to be so arrogant in the scavenger city, they must deal with him. No matter what the reason was, the challenges that Lu Chen made appointments with Han Fei the next day were mostly against powerhouses ranked above 4,500. Their average position was about 4,200. As for the kings ranked between 4,500 and 5,000, they all knew their limits. Lu Feiming's complete defeat had already explained the problem. Even if they were a little stronger than Lu Feiming, they wouldn't be much stronger, so there was no need for them to fight him. And this was the effect that Han Fei wanted. However, he couldn't be too arrogant. So, the next day, when Han Fei challenged again, it was still not difficult to win against those ranked around 4,500. However, when Han Fei reached the 4,087th place, he fought for nearly 100 rounds before he barely won. Besides, during this period, he was also bombarded by the opponent dozens of times and was slightly injured. So, it turned out that the limit of this guy's strength was around 4,000. So, more and more people tried to make appointments to challenge Han Fei. And Han Fei, because he had successfully made a name for himself, announced that he would fight once a month, against 10 people at a time. In this regard, no one objected. After all, after 3 ranking matches, he jumped almost 1,000 places. Even if Han Fei hid his strength well, he was still a newcomer of the law enforcement camp after all. His origins had not been fully developed yet. How could he break into the top 2,000? It must be noted that the top 2,000 were basically equivalent to the peak strength of the law enforcement camp and the internal camp of scavengers. How many kings had cultivated for thousands or even tens of thousands of years to reach this height? How could a newcomer like Han Fei reach this height as soon as he came up? Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. Excluding those who were not in the main city, Han Fei had reached 3,678 in the past 3 years. So far, he had won 300 matches in a row. Gradually, Han Fei's monthly challenge became a must-watch event for some rich people. They just wanted to see Han Fei draw his sword once. Some people speculated that Han Fei was practicing and nurturing his knife. He wanted to nurture that knife to the extreme. On this day, Chen Yan reported to Zhao Honghuang, "Lord Honghuang, it seems that Yi Fenglu is growing very quickly. With the resources from the cultivation, he has rented a room in the cultivation tower for 30 years. Furthermore, he had already gathered all the resources needed to set up the Origin Sea. He is currently in a period of explosive growth. Lord Desolate Desolation, your foresight is truly admirable. Zhao Honghuang had also heard about it, but it was not worth his attention. He asked, "What's the exact situation?" Chen Yan said, "I estimate that Yi Fengliu's origin sea has already surpassed 80,000 kilometers. This child's talent was extremely high. From his stubbornness in nurturing sabers, it was only natural that his origin sea would expand to 80,000 kilometers during this explosive period. Of course, it's mainly because he has been cultivating in the cultivation tower. According to my observation, his strength has skyrocketed and should be around 350,000 waves, and his soul power should have reached more than 800,000 points. But once this explosive period is over, the speed of growth in the future should slow down." Zhao Honghuang nodded slightly. "Then we'll see in 10 years. Oh right, in the next few days, follow and select a few brave and talented people in the inner division. Around 100 people will do." "Huh." Chen Yan's heart skipped a beat. "Lord Great Desolation, could it be that the 10,000-year period is up and the Shindu dynasty is starting again?" Zhao Honghuang nodded slightly. "It's been 100,000 years since the Battle of Emperors. The Sea Realm has been peaceful for almost 100,000 years. There are many strong heavenly talents. So, this time, we can't let the Scavenger City down. You need to check these 100 people personally. I heard that the Wanderer City and the Primordial City have already started preparing." Qin Yen frowned. "I've also heard about this. I heard that the activities of the heavenly chosen teams in the Wanderer City are getting more and more frequent. Among them, there is a heavenly talent named Neza, who can open the sky when he is only in the sea expansion realm. The Primordial City is in a mess because of him." "Humph." Zhao Honghuang snorted. "Heavenly talents are rare. This Yi Fenglu is indeed a good seedling. Unfortunately, it's less than 100 years before the Divine Capital Dynasty's grand competition of 10,000 years. Otherwise, another 7 years later. Today, the scavenger arena was full of people, because it was time for Han Fei's challenge again. He had been playing the challenge once a month for 10 years. For 10 years, Han Fei had won 1,000 games in a row and never lost. In fact, Han Fei also regarded this as a kind of experience. He almost suppressed his strength to the limit, and under this limit, he didn't use any extra power to compete with these people. Today was the critical moment for him to enter the 3,000th place. Now Han Fei was like the sun at high noon. The scavenger arena didn't expect that Han Fei could win 1,000 games in a row without losing. As early as when Han Fei entered the 4,000th place, countless people were waiting for him to be defeated, including Nie Yunxiang, who was a resident of the arena. However, up to now, Han Fei could already share the profits of each game with the arena equally, but he still hadn't lost. This made Nie Yunxiang speechless, and he even went to find Chen Yan. Chen Yan said, "Master Honghuang intends to cultivate this boy. Are you going to interfere?" Nie Yunxiang retorted with a single sentence. How could Nie Yunxiang compete with Zhao Honghuang? Seeing Chen Yan's determined attitude, he understood that the higher-ups attached great importance to Yi Fenglu. At this moment, in the arena, this was Han Fei's 10th game today and the last game to enter the 3,000th place. Han Fei's opponent was named Qiu Yuepiao. Like Han Fei, he was a real knife cultivator. Qiu Yuepiao was also speechless. He had been waiting for Han Fei to lose, but he didn't expect that this guy didn't lose and finally came to fight him. It was very difficult to guard the 3,000th place, and now there was a guy who was undefeated in 1,000 games. They were both knife cultivators. If others couldn't force Han Fei to draw his knife, that would be fine. But if he couldn't, he was afraid that his cultivation path would be destroyed by Han Fei. Therefore, as soon as Qiu Yuepiao came up, he said to Han Fei, "Brother Yi, why don't you draw your knife in this game?" Han Fei had fought 9 games in a row at this moment and had suffered some injuries before. Facing Qiu Yuepiao's voice transmission, Han Fei responded, "Draw your knife, it depends on whether you have the strength. If you don't want to ruin your cultivation path, you'd better use your strongest knife today." Qiu Yuepiao asked, "Brother Yi, you have fought 1,000 games. Aren't you tired? As the saying goes, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. I think, Brother Yi, You are too high profile now. Han Fei snorted. Brother Yue Piao, are you tired of guarding the 3000th place? I can help you guard it. I'm not tired. Chiu Yue Piao. Alas, Chiu Yue Piao sighed slightly. You're forcing me. I didn't want to be high profile. I just wanted to be a quiet knife cultivator and restrain my killing intent. But why can't you skip me? You can beat others. Han Fei thought, skip you? I'm going to rise today. If I skip you, a great knife cultivator, how can I rise? Chiu Yue Piao's eyes turned cold, and he changed from a flattering attitude to a cold knife cultivator full of killing intent. Clang Chiu Yue Piao walked towards Han Fei step by step. He reached into the void with one hand and pulled out a knife from the void, as if using the void as a scabbard. Han Fei frowned. This person was really not simple. He had read this person's information. In the past 100 years, his position had not changed. Even if he occasionally fell, he could still fight his way up. At this moment, countless spectators exclaimed, "What a strong knife intent! Look, the celestial being realm, the way of the heavens melted into the knife. Chiu Yue Piao has reached this level. He has been hiding his strength. Look at Yi Fenglio's fingers. He's going to use the knife. Tisks, I've earned back the tickets today. It's enough." Suddenly, the millions of people in the arena widened their eyes. Was Chiu Yue Piao really so strong that he forced Yi Fenglu to use the knife? Chiu Yue Piao shouted, "I'm not weak either. You've raised your knife for 10 years, and I've raised my knife for 300 years. Today, let's see whose knife is better." Clang. In this battle, before the two of them attacked, the long knife in Han Fei's hand was vibrating and making a clanging sound. Swish! Chiu Yue Piao sneered coldly. As soon as he slashed out, the whole arena was overshadowed by the dazzling brilliance. Knife light bloomed, piercing people's souls. In the face of this knife, countless people saw Han Fei's solemn face. Clang! At that moment, the knife that Han Fei had hidden for 10 years suddenly opened by an inch. Cough, cough, puff. At that moment, a voice suddenly shouted in the arena, "Anyone below the sea expansion realm, close your eyes." However, everyone had been waiting for Han Fei to draw the knife for 10 years. Who would be willing to close their eyes? A flash of silver light, as fast as a star, flashed without a shadow. Behind Han Fei, the sea was filled with knife chi. Draw technique, clang, countless explosions could be heard. Countless people's eyes were about to explode. They really couldn't bear the Taoist rhyme of this blade. They could only hear the sound of the knife breaking. When their eyes recovered, between Chiu Yue Piao and Han Fei, on the seabed under their feet, there was a huge gully thousands of kilometers long and thousands of meters deep. Who won? Whose knife is broken? When everyone looked at Chiu Yue Piao's knife, they saw that the long knife in his hand had been broken in half. And his knife intent had disappeared at this moment. Damn it. 300 years, it's worse than 10 years. Puff. Chapter 2188. After the battle, Han Fei didn't leave the field. The millions of spectators only saw that Han Fei's scales were emitting a faint red luster, and Han Fei's momentum was gradually rising. What? Is he having an epiphany? He's so strong. The color of his scales is changing. What's going on? Why does it feel like atavism? Seriously? Bloodline atavism? He's already so strong. How can he still have bloodline atavism? The owner of the arena noticed it too. He murmured, "It's really bloodline atavism. Is that the dragon origin in his bloodline?" At that moment, a phantom of an octopus was formed behind Han Fei, and the tentacles of the octopus seemed to be dragon blood shadows. Although the dragon blood shadow only appeared for a very short time, millions of people saw it. They seemed to have witnessed the reawakening of a strong master. What kind of creature is this? I've never heard of it. It's the first time I've seen it. It seems that his bloodline is very special and powerful. No wonder he's so strong. Han Fei pretended for a full 10 minutes and created the magical scene of bloodline atavism, which was enough to make a great leap in his strength. After 10 years of fighting in the arena, He needed another explosive improvement to continue to beat the last 3,000 people in the arena. Chen Yen hurried to the undersea jungle of the law enforcement camp. Master Hong Huang, something strange happened. Yi Fenglu has been fighting for 10 years. Today, he drew his knife and showed signs of atavism. Huh! This boy's strength, soul, and all other aspects will be greatly improved. According to Nie Yunxiang, the atavism this time was very spectacular and witnessed by millions of people. Zhao Honghuang was a little interested. Atavism in battle? Chen Yen nodded. He's been raising a knife for 10 years. Today, when he slashed it out, such a scene appeared. Oh? Someone can make him draw his knife? Who is it? Chen Yen said, Qiu Yue Piao, a low-key king from the scavengers. Zhao Honghuang said, keep an eye on him. Also, Yi Fenglu is not allowed to participate in the arena anymore. Over the years, he had earned quite a bit. Now that he could fight his way up to rank 3,000, he shouldn't be far from reaching the inner division. Looks like it's 20 years earlier than I expected. Even Zhao Honghuang and the others thought that Han Fei was a rare heavenly talent. Anything that happened to such a heaven's chosen was not strange. In their eyes, Han Fei's atavism meant that his strength had skyrocketed. It was almost certain that he would be able to enter the internal camp. However, there were too many people in the city. They wouldn't let the public know such a talent. Therefore, Zhao Honghuang's first order was that Han Fei could no longer participate in the arena battles. Chen Yen replied, yes. Your Excellency, the 30 years you set? Zhao Honghuang said, I was the one who promised him these 30 years. Let's see how he uses them. Han Fei, who was told that he could not fight in the arena, was not too surprised. He made it clear that he might have to cultivate in seclusion for 3 years. Even Chen Yen couldn't help but be speechless. He only needed to cultivate in seclusion for 3 years. This person was really exciting. The arena announced that Yi Fenglu would be in seclusion for a long time, and the monthly challenge was over. For this reason, countless people couldn't help but feel sorry. Many people felt that Yi Fenglu's attack was clean and efficient, and his Taoist rhyme was extremely strong. Watching Yi Fenglu's moves was something that could really be comprehended. Unfortunately, such an opportunity was gone just like that. When the incident subsided, the scales on Han Fei's body turned bright red. This was the atavism image that he had created for himself. It was as if he was wearing a bright red battle suit. 3 years later, on this day, in the valley of the law enforcement camp, a large group of people had just returned from the trial. As soon as someone returned to the valley, he laughed and said, I'm finally back. It feels so good to come back alive. Someone laughed and said, don't be so smug. This time, you've gained so much that it's enough for you to cultivate for 100 years. I'm afraid you have a chance to expand your origin sea to 100,000 kilometers, right? That person responded, if there are no accidents, I guess so. Finally, I can experience the first floor of the law enforcement camp. Someone was surprised. Oh, the first floor of the law enforcement camp? How dare you? You have to be in the top 300 of the outer camp. That person laughed and said, cultivation. As long as you don't die, your strength will definitely grow. Who is that? He's all red. Is he so outstanding? Many people turned around, only to see a strange humanoid with red scales on his body walking toward the law enforcement camp. Someone shook his head. I don't know him. There was no such person in the law enforcement camp before. He's probably a newcomer. Immediately, someone shouted, Hey, come here. Han Fei's eyes were indifferent. He glanced at these people and walked straight to the valley of the law enforcement camp as if he didn't hear them at all. Are the newcomers so arrogant nowadays? A strong master of the 10,000 Scales clan turned into a giant void hand and was about to grab Han Fei. However, at that moment, Han Fei's eyes turned cold. He turned his hand and waved the sheathed long saber in the air. With a casual wave, the saber intent burst out and the giant void hand exploded. When the man came back to his senses and was about to attack again, he was shocked to find that his palm was cut in half. Everyone's face changed drastically. The man whose palm was cut off immediately said coldly, "Humph! A newcomer dares to be so arrogant in the law enforcement camp. I'd like to see who you are." He moved his feet and stood in front of Han Fei. Next to him, a group of strong kings of the 10,000 Scales clan sneered and watched the show. "I haven't returned for decades. I didn't expect that the law enforcement camp would have such a big shot. Old Lu, half of my palm was cut off by a newcomer. I can't stand it. Old Lu, teach him the rules." At this moment, the man's palm grew back and he looked at Han Fei coldly. "Bow to me and admit your mistake. I'll probably spare you this time. Otherwise, get lost." "The kings?" Someone cursed. "Luda, teach this kid a lesson." Luda was enraged too. However, they were still outside the valley and fighting was not allowed in the city. Therefore, he turned the power of his divine soul into a soul thorn and tried to injure Han Fei. However, in the instant the attack was launched, a scabbard had unknowingly appeared between his eyebrows. Blood spurted out of Luda's eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. And the soul thorn just now was cut into halves, unable to hurt Han Fei at all. The leader of the group immediately changed his expression. Pulled Lu back off. Luda also knew that he had met a tough opponent. The person who could cut his divine soul thorn in an instant was definitely not an ordinary person. The leader stepped forward. "Kid, how dare you be so rude to a senior? If you apologize today, I'll spare your life." Luda shouted, "Brother Lei." The leader shook his head and signaled Luda to leave him alone. He said, "Kid, in the law enforcement camp, it's not a good thing to offend a king of the 10,000 Scales tribe. You haven't even entered the camp yet. If you do you think you can fight your way through all the kings of the camp?" Han Fei said indifferently with no expression on his face, "Get out of my way. Fuck, you don't know your place." The kings of the 10,000 Scales tribe were instantly enraged. What kind of attitude is this? Tian Lei also narrowed his eyes. "I don't want to say the same thing twice. Apologize to Senior Luda and I'll let it go. Otherwise..." Han Fei raised his eyes and looked at Tian Lei. "Otherwise what?" Tian Lei sneered. "It seems that although the newcomers are not weak, they are too arrogant. Fine, I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of the law enforcer." Seeing that Tian Lei was about to attack, the others curled their lips. "This kid is doomed. Brother Lei has always been ruthless. How can we let it go if we don't kill this kid? Is it really okay to be ruthless in the city?" Some kings quickly stood in the four directions and sealed off a space. Tian Lei sneered. "Newcomers should have the awareness of newcomers. The law enforcement camp still has a long way to go." In an instant, a saber radiance bloomed. A machete shone like a full moon. Only the light and shadow could be seen. At this moment, the air was filled with murderous intent and a cold Taoist aura. Just when everyone was about to watch a good show, they saw a flash of light. Han Fei had already walked to the edge of the seal, and there was a crack on the seal. Under the dumbfounded eyes of the kings, Han Fei walked away. As for Tian Lei, the sinister smile at the corner of his mouth was gradually disappearing. The upper half of his body was slowly slipping down. At that moment, blood splashed in the sky. An overlord who could enter the first level of the law enforcement camp was cut in half in an instant. Tian Lei's expression slowly turned into shock and fright. His voice was trembling. "When did you draw the saber?" Chapter 2189. By the time Tian Lei and the others realized what was going on, Han Fei had already disappeared from their sight. Han Fei had his own reasons for rising so quickly and even pretending to be an expert of his ancestors. The barbaric wasteland was only the most remote place in the East Sea. However, it was also a part of the East Sea. Every 10,000 years, the Divine Capital Dynasty, which was located in the center of the East Sea, would hold a grand competition. All the heavenly talents of the East Sea would go to the Divine Capital Dynasty. Yi Fengliu's current strength was far from enough to become a heavenly talent of that level. He had never heard of any overlord who could go to the Divine Capital Dynasty who hadn't developed their origin sea to the limit. The grand competition was the cradle of the heaven-opening state. Every 10,000-year competition, a large number of heaven opening stage experts would be born during or after it. And this time's 10,000-year grand competition was even more extraordinary. This time, it was a grand competition that was held once every 100,000 years, and it was divided into 3 levels. It included the Venerable State, the Pioneer Sea State, and the Heaven Opening State. This was the information Han Fei had learned in Shui Fei's Origin Sea, so he had already made a plan. Because the quota for the grand competition was very rare, he had to get one in the Scavenger City. Neza went to the Drifter City to gain experience and also to get a quota. Gu Tingnan wouldn't be so stingy as to give him a quota. However, 1 quota wasn't enough. Han Fei wanted to get a quota for Zhang Daqian too. With Zhang Daqian's potential and talent, if he worked hard before the grand competition, he should be able to develop his Origin Sea completely. By then, Han Fei could prepare some resources and weapons for him. Han Fei was sure that he could get this spot. There were signs of an octopus bloodline returning to its ancestor. By then, Zhang Daqian would naturally be able to replace Yi Fenglu. The only thing he lacked now was a quota for the Heaven Opening State. And Han Fei didn't plan to get this quota for the time being. At this moment, Han Fei walked into the valley of the law enforcement camp. However, when he walked in, he realized that this was his second time here, and he still did not know the way to the inner division. But when Han Fei walked in, many people immediately looked at him strangely, which was different from the last time. Last time, many people thought that Han Fei was a human and had a poor bloodline, so they despised him very much. However, in the last battle of the Scavenger Arena, Han Fei showed signs of atavism, and the Blood Dragon chapter attracted countless people's praise. Outside, rumors had spread that Yi Fenglu alone had the strength of 9 dragons. As the saying goes, those who are famous are worthy of their reputation. Han Fei had ranked 3,000 in the arena in the past 10 years and experienced ancestral atavism. Now his specific strength had become a mystery. Many people didn't regard Han Fei as a human being at all. Because at this moment, Han Fei didn't look like a human at all. Everyone would only think that he had turned into a weird octopus, an octopus that might have the bloodline of dragons. Since he was already here, he did not need to worry about not knowing the entrance to the inner camp. But before entering the inner camp, he planned to do one more thing, and that was to fight on the Death Mountain again. Previously, Qin Yan told him that when he entered the inner camp, he could consider fighting on the Death Mountain again. And Han Fei had the same idea in his heart. The difficulty of the Death Mountain increased progressively. This was an excellent place for training. As the difficulty became higher and higher, Han Fei would be able to show his true heavenly talent side in front of these kings. Last time, he made it to the list of top 100 just for fun. This time, Han Fei's goal was not the so-called list of top 100. He only had one goal, and that was to be number 1. Han Fei ignored the countless senses of the law enforcement camp and went straight to the trial ground of the Death Mountain. At this time, Tian Lei and the others had also returned. As soon as they returned, this group of people was curious about what they were looking for and wanted to ask who the hell this person was. Brother Lei, when did you come back? Someone noticed Tian Lei and the others and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Tian Lei glanced at the second floor and immediately said, Qinghua, don't worry about when I came back. That is the guy walking ahead. Tell me who that guy is first. The king called Qinghua couldn't help but say, Brother Lei, your qi and blood are fluctuating so violently. Did you fight him? Tian Lei said, I was almost killed by him. This bastard, tell me where this newcomer came from, what path does he walk, and which floor does he live on? Qinghua said, well, Brother Lei, I advise you not to mess with this guy. He is not a human at all. Tian Lei was speechless. Of course I know he is not a human. How can he be a human with his appearance? No, Brother Lei, I mean this guy is abnormally strong. Anyway, don't mess with him. Tian Lei couldn't help asking, what do you mean? Isn't he a newcomer? Qinghua said, he is, but he may be the strongest newcomer in all the years. Tian Lei's eyelids twitched. What do you mean? Qinghua sighed. This guy killed Xin Feng with one strike on the first day he joined the law enforcement camp. He only used one strike in a life-and-death battle. Tianlei couldn't help but be serious. Chen Feng from the third floor? Isn't that guy very good at escaping? Qin Hua said, exactly. But it was useless. He died before he could even take one strike from this guy. Hiss, Tianlei couldn't help but ask, he is so strong. Alas, Brother Lei, you call this strong? You may not believe it, but in 10 years, this guy started from the 7,000th place in the arena and reached the 3,000th place in only 10 years. After 1,000 battles, he has never been defeated and won 1,000 games in a row. Can you believe it? Tianlei and the other kings were all speechless. What the hell? How could someone win 1,000 games in a row in a place like the scavenger arena? All of a sudden, Tianlei's ambition for revenge vanished without a trace. He couldn't afford to mess with this guy. At this moment, seeing Han Fei standing at the gate of the Death God Mountain, Tianlei couldn't help but say, is this guy here to take the test of the Death God Mountain? Someone behind Tianlei said, then with his strength, won't he enter the top 100 list? Qin Hua sneered. The top 100 list? He entered the top 100 list on the first day he came here. Look, the last place on the top 100 list, the guy named Yi Fenglu, is this guy. Tianlei, the kings, on the Death God Mountain, Han Fei stood here again, listening to the roars in his ears. Facing the first wave of more than 100 zombies, he didn't even move. He just pointed casually, and a zombie exploded. This scene lasted until the 401st place. At that moment, Han Fei finally moved. Han Fei only knew that the person who ranked first was named Li Hui, who killed 702 enemies. According to the rules of the Death God Mountain, the strength of the zombies would increase by 2 times every 100 people. Han Fei felt that there was something wrong. If this Li Hui could kill 702 people, then his real combat power might be even stronger than when he was at the peak of the Sea Expansion Realm, and much stronger. But this was what Han Fei wanted to explore. At this moment, facing the 401st zombie, Han Fei fought against it with his strength. It turns out that the increase of the zombies has decreased. No wonder. I thought it would continue to increase at this amplitude. According to Han Fei's actual detection, the strength of the zombies above the 400th place reached an astonishing 370,000 to 380,000 waves. If this power was in the chaotic Azure Sea, it would already be considered a top existence. Of course, it was also because the kings in the chaotic ocean hadn't fully developed their source sea. After a moment, the pure strength of the zombies above the 500th place could reach 410,000 to 420,000 waves. The pure strength of the zombies above the 600th place could reach more than 450,000 waves. At this time, Chen Yan had quietly appeared on the Death God Mountain and was calculating Han Fei's strength again. His strength has exceeded 450,000 waves? An increase of 130,000 waves in 10 years? Chen Yan was speechless. This time, Yi Fengliu's rise was probably unstoppable. Outside, countless people had gathered around the void stone tablet outside the Death God Mountain. When Yi Fengliu's name appeared at the 98th place, these people were excited. Although they knew that his ranking would definitely rise, they couldn't help but want to see how high he could climb. It's moving, it's at the 97th place. Wow, it jumped to the 91st place. So fast? Look, it's above the 80th place. His ranking is rising so fast. Why is it still rising at the 50th place? For a moment, everyone was speechless. At first, they exclaimed, but later they became numb. At this moment, Han Fei had become the 16th place. Many people were shocked. Tianlei asked, will he enter the top 10? Yi Fengliu's name was climbing at a speed visible to the naked eye. His kill count corresponded from 616 to 617, and yet, there was no sign that it was going to change. Finally, when Han Fei defeated 668 people, he entered the top 10. Someone exclaimed, this time, the 10,000 scale clan has a super strong master who isn't from our clan? Someone exclaimed, no, there are also many heavenly talents in the 10,000 scale clan in the internal camp. After all, the top 100 ranking is made by the 10,000 Scale Clan. Inside the Death God Mountain. When Han Fei defeated the 700th person, the Phantom of the Dragon's seal burst out behind him. Chen Yen keenly noticed that the scales on Han Fei's body were softening. When the 701st living dead hit Han Fei's body trembled like ripples, and a lot of the huge force was neutralized. Chen Yen was about to record it, when he suddenly found that there was another person next to him. Who else could it be but Zhao Honghuang? Master Honghuang? Zhao Honghuang nodded slightly. This is this kid's trump card. He can neutralize more than 50% of the force. It seems that it's indeed the atavism of the ancient demon bloodline. Chen Yen asked. But, Master Honghuang, even if he can neutralize the force, how can his soul resist it? Zhao Honghuang said, look at the faint blue ripples on his body. What's that? Chen Yen was confused. Ownerless souls? He can use ownerless souls to protect his soul? Zhao Honghuang couldn't help but narrow his eyes. It seems that his atavism is not simple. Finally, when Han Fei killed 702 people, Zhao Honghuang's voice stopped. Young man, you should hide your strength. Stop at 703. At this moment, on the void steel, Yi Fenlio's name was already the first. Chapter 2190. Although the people in the valley didn't see how Han Fei did it, they saw the record of the Death God Mountain being broken with their own eyes. It was different from the first time Han Fei challenged the Death God Mountain. At that time, Han Fei had just entered the list of 100 and was ranked last. Therefore, everyone thought that Han Fei tried his best to get on the list. But this time, when Han Fei entered the top 10, everyone's heart sank. They knew that a peerless heavenly talent was born. Those who could enter the list of 100 on the Death God Mountain were nothing. Those who could enter the top 10 were rare heavenly talents that only appeared once in thousands of years. Such people couldn't stay in the outer camp for long. They would definitely enter the inner camp. Besides, even if they entered the inner camp, they would be outstanding people. As a matter of fact, Tian Lei and the others, who had been prepared to take revenge, turned pale. Brother Lei, should we go out to train again? Tian Lei shivered. You're right. I still need some energy crystals. Does anyone want to go hunting with me for a few years? I'll go, Brother Lei, let's go together. Who doesn't need energy crystals? Let's go together. Tian Lei and the others slipped away as soon as they came back. They didn't even go to their cave residences. They left in a hurry. Tian Lei was still a bit nervous. That guy shouldn't be so vengeful, right? Regardless, let's go out for a few years first. When that guy enters the inner camp, he won't have time to find trouble with me. Not long after Tian Lei and the others left in a hurry, a figure walked out of the small world of the Death God Mountain. At this moment, Han Fei's qi and blood were boiling. The atavism characteristic was still preserved, and some weird red mist was still escaping from his body. When they saw Han Fei again, the valley of the law enforcement camp was silent. Ling Ran, who had once received Han Fei, and some other human powerhouses, were all shocked. At this moment, they were also shocked, although they felt that Han Fei could no longer be regarded as a human being. Han Fei used to be a human after all. In a sense, they felt that Han Fei was still a part of the human race. Even though they knew that the 10,000 Scale Clan didn't think so. Now, Han Fei had become a legend of the law enforcement camp. They had witnessed it with their own eyes. Someone murmured, "Will he still remember the human race?" Someone let out a long sigh. So what if he remembers the human race? It's true that he's a heaven's chosen, but even if he opens the sky and cares for the human race, he can't change the current situation of the human race. Lin Chi said, after all, he walked out of the human race. I'm willing to bless him. Apart from the issues discussed by the human race, most people were concerned about what Han Fei would do next. Someone said, breaking Death God Mountain's record, what will he do next? Someone replied, isn't that obvious? He must be from the inner division. Someone was puzzled. Say, his kill count is exactly one more than the first one. Is this a coincidence or? Someone sneered, Who cares if he did it on purpose or not? Being able to get first place is already high profile enough. Buzz, while everyone was staring at Han Fei, Chen Yan suddenly appeared. Chen Yan said, Yi Fenglu has officially broken the first record of the Death God Mountain leaderboard, becoming the new number one. Under the orders of Lord Desolate Desolation, a special reward, a world origin fruit. What? The reward is the world origin? Isn't the reward a bit too much? He's not from the 10,000 Scales clan. How can we reward him with the world origin so easily? Someone sneered. What do you mean easily? Is it easy to never lose in the arena, or is it easy to break Death God Mountain's record? Han Fei was also taken aback. A world origin fruit? He had seen it in the memories of Xue Fei and the others. However, he had no idea what it was, how to use it, or how much benefit it could bring. It was a pity that Neza's body was too far away from his real body. Otherwise, Han Fei would have known that the world origin was a top treasure that could enhance one's potential and was much more advanced than the mystic yellow soil. Because he didn't know what the world origin was, Han Fei was quite calm. He looked up at Han Fei and said, breaking the record of the Death God Mountain is the only reason you got it. Han Fei slightly nodded. Thank you, Lord Desolate Desolation. Thank you, Lord Enforcer. Chen Yan slightly nodded. He was about to let go of the world origin, but then he said, you can catch it with your hand, but don't put it into the sea of origin. Otherwise, it will melt immediately, and you'll have to cultivate on the spot. Seeing that Han Fei was confused, Chen Yan snorted. I don't know where you got your luck. Just take it and cultivate. When Chen Yan threw out the world origin fruit, and when Han Fei caught it, information emerged in his eyes. Name World Origin Fruit. Introduction. Part of the origin power of a small world contains the ultimate truth of the great Tao, the law of heaven, and the vitality of all things. It's the foundation of all Das. If an ordinary person takes this fruit, he or she can get at least a level 9 spiritual heritage, and there's a chance that they can get a heavenly heritage. After taking this fruit, the Sea of Origin will be integrated with the law of heaven, which will greatly increase one's potential. Even if the ordinary person dies, the Sea of Origin will not be destroyed, and it can become an ownerless small world with the world origin. Level Chaos Spiritual Treasure Quality General contains the world origin unknown effect, strengthen the Sea of Origin, improve the spiritual heritage, and stimulate the potential. Wow, Han Fei's heart trembled. This is a fucking good thing. Just the word, Chaos Spiritual Treasure, was enough to make Han Fei look at it in a new light. The only Chaos Spiritual Treasure he had ever gotten in his life was from Senior Sister Qinglian. After Xia Xiaochuan ate it, the child of God was really born. Otherwise, she might not even be able to condense a sesame-sized fetus. Han Fei looked at the world origin fruit again and couldn't help but feel excited. This thing could even help an ordinary person reach the sky in a single step. It was conceivable how advanced it was. Fortunately, he didn't know it at the beginning. Otherwise, Han Fei felt that he might have dug the world origin of the chaotic ocean. I see. It turns out that this is the fundamental reason why everyone wants to look for the starting ground. At this moment, Han Fei finally understood that it was not how attractive the resources in the starting ground were, but how attractive the world origin was. Han Fei had never thought that he could get such a treasure just by passing through the Death Mountains test. Han Fei couldn't help but look at the other entrances to the small worlds. How could Chen Yan not know what he was thinking? Chen Yan snorted softly. This world origin fruit was given to you by Lord Primeval as an exception. Ordinary people, even heaven opening stage powerhouses, have never received such a level of reward. Not to mention that the other small worlds are not suitable for you. Even if they are suitable for you, you will not get a second world origin fruit after passing through them. Han Fei sighed in his heart. What a pity. If I pass through a trial, I can get such a reward. Then in the next few years, I will have something to do. I will definitely pass through a trial every now and then. As for the surrounding kings, they all burst into exclamations and gasps of admiration. This world origin, I have only heard of it. This is the first time I have seen it. Someone exclaimed, As expected, only such a monster will have the chance to be rewarded with such a treasure. Someone sighed. It's a pity that this person is not from the 10,000 Scales clan. Otherwise, he would be a follower. Someone shook his head. It doesn't matter whether he is a member of the 10,000 Scales clan or not. What matters is that he is in the law enforcement camp with Lord Primeval watching over him. No matter how peerless a heavenly talent he is, he has to obey the 10,000 Scales clan. While the onlookers were talking, Han Fei had already disappeared from where he was. The cultivation tower. When Han Fei appeared here with the world origin in his hand, the old man guarding the cultivation tower was stunned. Isn't that the thing in this kid's hand, the world origin? Although he knew that this kid was highly valued, it was a bit unbelievable that he was rewarded with a world origin. It was not that it was difficult for a sea opening stage cultivator to get a world origin fruit. In fact, in the scavenger city, there was no shortage of world origin fruits. But how long had Han Fei been in the law enforcement camp? This world origin fruit meant that he was highly valued. After a moment, the moment Han Fei put this thing into the origin sea, he finally experienced the feeling that Neza's clone had experienced. After a moment, looking at the unusually lush spiritual plants and orchards in the Sea of Origin, Han Fei couldn't help but feel a bit guilty. This thing was at least 7 or 8 times better than the black-yellow soil. And, although it was not very obvious, Han Fei still felt that his potential had been improved a lot. Han Fei estimated that this kind of improvement, even if it was not 10%, must be at least a small half. At his current level, he had double heavenly veins and a top bloodline. Under such circumstances, he could still tap into his potential. The effect was obvious. Besides, as his potential increased, Han Fei felt that his strength seemed to have improved a little too. But he couldn't find anyone to test it, so he couldn't get any conclusions. 3 days later, after many experiments, Han Fei finally confirmed that the origin of the world was a shortcut for normal kings to open the sky and become even stronger. This thing had no side effects. After merging with the heavenly way, it could even make one have a deeper understanding of the heavenly way. It would also be more natural for one to use the heavenly way. Han Fei knew that his next step was to get more world origin, no matter what. Chapter 2191. 3 days ago, Han Fei went to kill the Divine Mountain just to show off his strength in front of countless kings and let them witness his growth and strength. The reward of the world origin fruit was completely beyond Han Fei's expectation. However, after getting the world origin fruit, Han Fei knew that it was what he needed to find next. 3 days later, Han Fei returned to the law enforcement camp. However, this time he walked to a trench that divided the law enforcement camp. When someone noticed Han Fei, he immediately shouted, "Look, Yi Feng Lu is going to break into the inner camp." What? So fast? He digested the world origin so quickly. Is it really him? Look, he's carrying a knife. It seems that he's really ready to fight. Unfortunately, we can't see the battle in the inner camp. No, there is a battle that we can see. When he beats the war drum, someone must come out to fight. Someone's eyes lit up and then he said, "By the way, this guy hasn't stayed in the law enforcement camp for a day since he joined the law enforcement camp, right? He didn't even rob a cave abode." Someone sighed. "I'm afraid that from the beginning, he didn't intend to stay in the outer camp. His goal from the beginning was the inner camp." While everyone was discussing, Han Fei had slowly walked to the center of the trench. In that deep darkness, something seemed to be waiting for an opportunity to move, which made people feel inexplicably terrified. Then he saw a huge black shadow. In a weird arc, it smashed at Han Fei from the front. The black shadow was very slow. Han Fei took a closer look, only to find that it was a big bell, which was slamming at him like a swing. Expressionless, Han Fei just raised his hand and reached out to block it. Clang, the sound of the bell resounded through the inner and outer camps of the law enforcement camp. The outer camp had long known it, and now they were all watching with wide eyes. It was not uncommon for an outer camp to break into the inner camp, but there were not many who were really looking forward to it. There was really no one like Han Fei, who had been in the city for 10 years and fought to the point where the scavenger arena had banned him. Therefore, everyone wanted to see how Han Fei broke into the camp and what the result would be. In the inner camp. Dang, thing. When the bell rang, most of the cultivators in the inner camp opened their eyes. Someone murmured, "Someone broke into the camp again? It's really noisy." This bell is so annoying. We're just going to break into the camp. What's the point of ringing it so many times? Most of these people were among the top in terms of strength. After all, the outer division would usually only challenge the inner division after the 900 rank. Only those who were close to the 1000 rank would accept the challenge. In theory, the person ranked last in the internal division would be the one to accept the challenge. When the bell rang, a man from the 10,000 Scales tribe stood up slowly. This man had a cold expression and looked a little vicious. His body was abnormally tall and sturdy, and his frame was especially big. He looked like a giant of the 10,000 Scale tribe. When this person stood up, someone laughed and said, "Tu Meng, why is it your turn to fight now? Where are the people behind you?" The burly man said, "A 10-man team has gone on a mission." With that, the man called Tu Meng took a few steps and disappeared into the trench. When Tu Meng walked out, many people in the outer camp exclaimed, "Oh, it was Boss Tu? Why is he the one to fight? He shouldn't be the last in the inner camp." Someone said, "That's simple. It means that the person behind Boss Tu is not in the inner camp because he has something to do." Boss Tu is a real body-tempering cultivator. If it wasn't for his divine soul. Shoo! Someone scolded, "Are you an idiot? This is a fair challenge. If you expose Boss Tu's problem, won't you be telling Yi Fenglu how to fight?" The person who was scolded was speechless. Yi Fenglu is not an idiot. It's useless to hide it. Boss Tu's divine soul is his only weakness. But no matter what, Boss Tu is still in the inner camp. A weak divine soul is only relative. Someone said, "Okay, it's not important. Yi Fenglu is said to be a body-tempering cultivator too. I heard that his body has awakened the ancient dragon chapters and his defense is super strong. Even if it's a head-on battle, Yi Fenglu might not lose." For you. Tu Meng's voice was deep and heavy. His words gave everyone a sense of pressure. However, only Han Fei was as cold as usual. He said, "Yi Fenglu from the outer camp." Tu Meng slightly grinned. "Never heard of you. My name is Tu Meng, and I rank 990th in the inner camp. The people behind me are not here, so I'm your only opponent. You can choose not to fight and wait for the 1000th to come back." Without thinking, Han Fei said indifferently, "Let's fight." Tu Meng thought that he didn't have to fight this battle, but unexpectedly, this guy challenged him without hesitation. Of course, Tu Meng wouldn't be careless. Anyone who could enter the inner camp from the outer camp couldn't be simple. Besides, Yi Fenglu didn't exist in the outer camp before Han Fei came to the inner camp. If there was, Han Fei would have remembered him. After all, his red scales were too dazzling. Tu Meng said, "Okay, then you're ready." Tu Meng was also very decisive. Black turbid liquid surrounded his body, and the pressure he exuded was getting heavier and heavier. His power even affected the surrounding sea. Even the air was trembling because of Tu Meng's power. However, Han Fei still didn't move at all. He didn't even draw his knife. Bam! Tu Meng, who had been fully prepared, burst out his speed to the limit in an instant. The instantaneous kinetic energy caused the seawater behind him to roar and rush at Han Fei like an ocean current at the highest speed. Han Fei's eyes glittered. As expected of an expert from the inner camp, his strength was extraordinary. It could be divided into two moves. Because the time was too short, Tu Meng didn't think Han Fei could block his attack at all. However, when he slashed at the center of Han Fei's eyebrows, Han Fei slightly moved sideways, formed a fist with his left hand, and casually counterattacked with the Great Strength Dragon Fist. At this level, combat skills really didn't mean much. The Great Strength Dragon Fist was a unique technique of the Chao family, but if one wanted to trace it back, they might have to trace it back to the God of War. As soon as the punch was launched, a dragon roared. But Tu Meng seemed to be a master of body refining. He managed to react and put his hand in front of his chest, trying to block Han Fei's punch. But Han Fei showed a hint of imperceptible disdain. He held the knife in his right hand and pointed at Tu Meng from behind, gaining the upper hand in an instant. At this moment, Han Fei had already raised his foot and kicked Tu Meng and the fast tide behind him into pieces. The entire trench instantly flashed with a weird blue light, blocking the terrifying collision. In the outer camp, countless people exclaimed, "Shoot! Is Yi Fengliu's physique stronger than Boss Tu's? One kick? Just one kick? Boss Tu isn't even qualified to let Yi Fengliu draw his knife. I heard that Yi Fengliu had an epiphany in the arena and then was disqualified. Did he understand something?" For a moment, there were all kinds of speculations. Although Tu Meng was kicked away, his eyes lit up. Is this guy a body cultivator? As if intrigued, Tu Meng stomped on the tide behind him again and suddenly leaped up. He clenched his fists and pressed at Han Fei with the Tao of Gravity. Han Fei frowned. Is this guy on the Tao of Gravity? That was interesting. At that moment, Han Fei raised his hand and blocked Tu Meng's terrifying strength with a single knife. It could be seen that Han Fei's flesh and blood were shaking, as if he were unloading the force. At the same time, an anti-gravity force appeared on Han Fei's knife. Do you only know how to use brute force? Han Fei snorted and kicked the top of Tu Meng's head so fast that although Tu Meng managed to block it, he felt that his two arms were about to be shattered. Tu Meng, who was kicked into the air, was about to launch a full attack and activate a certain secret technique, but suddenly, he saw that Han Fei had appeared in front of him. It was just a simple punch, but the fist mark carried a Taoist aura and flashed with golden light. After this punch, Tu Meng was directly blown into the entrance where he came from. Thud, the barrier at the entrance was almost shattered by Han Fei's punch, but it didn't completely collapse. However, in this way, Tu Meng had almost no chance of winning, because he was almost crushed by Han Fei in terms of strength. Han Fei casually carried the long knife on his shoulder, walked to Tu Meng casually, and said indifferently, "You are no match for me. Get out of my way." "I can still." "You can't?" Tu Meng wanted to stand up, but Han Fei's left hand had pressed on Tu Meng's shoulder. This guy tried for a long time but couldn't even stand up. At this moment, Tu Meng was shocked. What kind of person is this? How can he be so strong? Second update. Please vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 2192. Tu Meng's heart was in turmoil. He couldn't understand how such a skinny guy could be so powerful when he burst out. Also, this guy is already so powerful. Why did he only want to enter the inner camp now? According to his strength, he should have entered the inner camp 100 years ago, right? What Tu Meng didn't know was that Han Fei had only been here for 10 years. The spectating kings in the outer camp were all speechless. Fine, they already knew this would happen. It seemed like Yi Fengliu had never lost a fight before. In fact, many people in the inner camp knew Han Fei. Many people were invited to the arena to watch the fight, but Tu Meng didn't know about it. At this moment, the brawny man from the 10,000 Scales clan said, "I admit defeat." Han Fei withdrew his palm and looked at the entrance of the inner camp opening indifferently. After Han Fei stepped into it, Tu Meng followed him and asked in a muffled voice, "Brother Yi, what race are you from? You're much stronger than me. Even in the inner camp, you can rank in the top 500 in terms of pure strength. How did you train in the outer camp?" Han Fei said indifferently, "It's my bloodline." Tu Meng immediately understood. His disappointment was gone. It seemed that this guy's bloodline was extremely strong. He thought, that's right. This guy looks weird. There must be something wrong with his bloodline. Han Fei stepped into the inner camp and found that it was not a valley, but a small world. This small world was full of vitality. It was a place that looked like an undersea jungle. However, there were not many creatures here. There were not many normal creatures in the chaotic wasteland. Except for ominous creatures, there were almost no normal marine creatures here, so it was not easy to see some here. Unfortunately, the undersea jungle was less than 1,000,000 miles wide, about 600,000 miles wide. The further one went, the fewer creatures there were. As soon as Han Fei came in, he felt a series of perceptions scanning him. Because Han Fei asked for a fight, he didn't care if there were any rules here and just scanned the place with his perception. With this sweep, he discovered that there were many cave dwellings that had been opened up millions of kilometers away from this place. These cave mansions seemed to be located next to an earth vein. Those earth veins should contain a lot of vitality. Humph! Before Han Fei could figure out why these people built cave residences based on earth veins, he heard someone snort. The next moment, Han Fei felt that his soul was attacked by other souls. Although he could easily shatter that divine soul, he still pretended to collapse. The two senses collided in the void, shattering and exploding. Han Fei's eyes turned cold as he looked at a cave abode. In front of the cave abode, there was a stone tablet with the number 827 carved on it. Noticing Han Fei's gaze, someone in the cave abode snorted coldly. The inner camp isn't at the level where you can spy on us as you please. Since Tu Meng was defeated, he will naturally explain it to you. Tu Meng didn't expect Han Fei to be so stubborn. He immediately said, regardless of whether it was the inner division or the outer division, they were not allowed to pry. Since you've defeated me, you can enter my cave abode number 990. I'll tidy up a bit, and there will be a detailed introduction to the inner camp. However, Han Fei said indifferently, just tell me the rules. I don't think I need to use your cave abode, right? Before Tu Meng could react, he heard someone sneer. What an arrogant newbie. You're Yi Fenglu, the one who entered the outer division 10 years ago and ranked 3000th in the arena, right? Why, you're so arrogant right after entering the inner division. Are you planning to enter the top 300 in 10 years? Someone snorted. Yi Fenglu, I heard that your knife skills are extremely powerful. Not only have you entered the heavenly Tao, but you've also awakened your bloodline. However, you must be dreaming if you think you can defeat the inner division. Someone was puzzled. No wonder you're so arrogant. It turns out that you're a top heavenly talent. Humph, but who can enter the inner division isn't a heavenly talent. Someone else sneered. You may not believe it, but he's not an alien, but a human who accidentally ingested alien blood. Otherwise, how can humans have bloodline awakening? What? A human? Ridiculous. A human dares to enter the inner division? Interesting. Has the human race reached the stage where they can be arrogant in the inner division? Previously, these people from the inner division were just a little unhappy with Han Fei's dominance. However, when they found out that Han Fei was actually a human, many of them were furious. Han Fei was also speechless. What's wrong with humans? Did the human race eat your rice or steal your daughters? Where did the hatred between the 10,000 scale tribe and the human race come from? However, Han Fei couldn't be bothered with their reactions. He said indifferently, since you're not convinced, then let's fight. The one in room 827, do you dare to accept my challenge? Han Fei didn't know if the inner division could fight someone of a higher rank. If it was possible, who would be willing to fight one by one? Fighting 10 battles a day would take a few months, wouldn't it? Ridiculous. Wait until you understand the rules first before you challenge me. Also, I'll be waiting for you. A voice sounded out from cave number 827, and it was filled with dense disdain. Han Fei couldn't help but look at Tu Meng. Tu Meng also looked at Han Fei speechlessly. In fact, he didn't like humans either, but he was defeated. Moreover, Han Fei couldn't even be considered a human now. Hence, Tu Meng snorted. The inner division challenges can only be fought one by one. This is a starting place that hasn't been deprived of the world's origin. The ranking means how much world's origin you can enjoy. If you know everything about the world's origin, you'll know how rare it is to cultivate in the inner division. Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. One could obtain the world's origin by cultivating here? He couldn't help but look at the places where the cave dwellings were. He originally thought that they were connected to the earth veins, but now it seemed that it was a release of the world's origin. No wonder. But since that's the case, it suits me. Han Fei said indifferently, where's room 989? Someone sneered. This kid, is he really going to fight his way up? He doesn't know his place. Let's see how far this kid can go. As soon as Han Fei said that, a female powerhouse from the 10,000 Scales clan stood up. She sneered. Tu Meng's divine soul isn't strong enough. I'm not surprised that he will lose. If you want to challenge, come on. Tu Meng thought, I've never seen Yi Fengliu's divine soul power. However, I can't be the only one at a disadvantage. You guys should also see how strong this newbie is. The battlefield of the inner division was actually very vast. What Han Fei saw was only the cave dwellings of these people, which were their cultivation places. Everything else was the battlefield of the inner division. The inner division was also a place for training. Outside the cave dwellings of these people, in the depths of the small world, there were some powerful sea beasts. People would often fight with sea beasts to stimulate their potential. The place where Han Fei followed them was only 1,000,000 kilometers away from the cultivation places of the Beast Kings. At this moment, opposite Han Fei, the woman sneered. Yifeng, I've seen your battles. You're a body cultivator just like Tu Meng. Your divine soul power is SOSO, but your knife Dao is not bad. If you use your knife, you may have a chance. Han Fei said, I don't use my knife casually. Hearing Han Fei's cold words, many people made fun of him. Lin Shuang, look at him. He doesn't take you seriously at all. I can't stand it. Lin Shuang, the newbie is too arrogant. Let's see if you can take him down. Lin Shuang, if you can't take him down, you can give him to me. I don't mind teaching him a lesson for you. Lin Shuang sneered. You want to take away my cave dwelling? In your dreams. Han Fei didn't know how much world origin they were talking about. It would be perfect if it was as much as the world origin fruit that Chen Yan gave him. Puff Lin Shuang took action. Her divine soul power weaved into a net. She grabbed a black steel needle in her hand, which turned into thousands of needles, as if she were going to pierce Han Fei into a hornet's nest. Han Fei slashed at the net casually. Of course, he didn't unsheath his knife. When the knife light cut through the soul net, he found that an abnormal power was absorbing his knife aura. Humph! This space is sealed and devoured. Otherwise, why do you think Tu Meng can't fight me? However, the next moment, Han Fei's body moved slightly, and the divine soul power between his eyebrows burst out, turned into a sword, and slashed at the void. The soul net was torn apart in an instant. Divine soul turned into a knife. This person's soul is not weak. Lin Shuang's face changed slightly. Yi Fengliu's soul was much stronger than she thought. However, how could he block her soul-suppressing needles? Unfortunately, a dark blue color emerged from Han Fei's body, which was the materialization of ownerless souls. Clank, clank, clank. When the dense flying needles fell on Han Fei, none of them could pierce the ownerless soul barrier that escaped from Han Fei's body. Han Fei took a deep look at Lin Shuang and said indifferently, "That's it." Chapter 2193. Lin Shuang was horrified. Is this guy's soul so strong? In an instant, Han Fei's figure was nowhere to be seen. The next moment, in front of Lin Shuang, a shadow flickered, and she felt an indescribably terrifying force bombarding her. Her internal organs exploded in an instant, and most of her battle suit was torn apart. Bam! Lin Shuang was punched thousands of kilometers away. Half of her body exploded, and her battle suit was torn. There was a big hole in her chest, which was horrifying. Hiss! Many people were shocked. Lin Shuang was defeated in the first round? She was defeated so thoroughly? Soul attacks didn't seem to have much effect on Yi Fengliu. Interesting. Those who didn't intend to join in the fun couldn't help but look at the battlefield. Many of these people were top experts in the top 500. Each of these people's source C had been fully developed. Not only that, but their combat power had also reached their peak state. Some people stopped cultivating and began to pay attention to the battlefield. Someone said directly, "This person's strength has entered the top 500. Judging from the current performance, he must be in the top 800. Unfortunately, Lin Shuang can't measure this person's strength." Someone nodded slightly. His strength is not weak. Overall, it may not be difficult for him to enter the top 700. At that time, most of his means will be revealed. I'm afraid it won't be easy for him to move forward. At this time, Han Fei's voice was indifferent, and he had no intention of leaving. On the other side, Lin Shuang put on a new battle suit. As soon as her body was repaired, she looked at Han Fei in shock, and then looked at another young man who came not far away. The young man said, "My name is..." Before the man finished speaking, Han Fei interrupted him. "I don't need to know your name unless you can beat me." The young man sneered. "Yi Fenglu, do you want to fight all the way as soon as you enter the internal camp? How many positions do you want? 800? 700? Or even 500? The young man's slightly sarcastic tone seemed to be provoking Han Fei. However, he didn't know that Han Fei's real purpose was not to fight to the 9th place. As long as he wanted, with his current strength, it was possible for him to enter the top 10 lords. What more, a mere inner division? He suddenly attacked. The long saber in his hand struck out, the scabbard emitting a golden light. He said indifferently, "Noisy." The young man's hands turned into giant pincers and tried to crush the saber. However, as Lin Shuang and the others all knew, Han Fei's knife Dao could no longer be regarded as an ordinary knife Dao, but the power of the heavenly way. Ka-ka-bang, the illusionary pincers instantly shattered, and the young man was slashed in half. His body was sent flying by the shockwave. Han Fei did not look at the man anymore. He said in his cold, emotionless voice, "Next." The people of the inner camp would not reject a fight. Since they were in the inner camp, they could face challenges from people ranked lower than them at any time. Either you're not here, or you need to go into seclusion for some special reason. Anyone who didn't have a good reason had to accept the challenge. Even if you didn't participate in this battle due to special reasons, if the person in front of you was defeated, your ranking would automatically move down by 1 place. Therefore, basically, the people of the inner camp had been challenged by others and had challenged others. These people were not afraid of fighting, especially Han Fei, who could easily defeat his opponents in a row. It didn't matter if they lost to such a person. After all, they were not the only ones who lost. However, if they could tie with Han Fei, or even win by luck, it would be a glorious thing. At least, they would break Han Fei's undefeated record. Therefore, when Han Fei called out the next person, someone immediately responded, "I'll do it." Boom, boom, boom. After 2 moves, the big horn on this person's head was cut off by Han Fei. He was defeated in 2 moves. A moment later, the shell of a giant tortoise phantom was penetrated, and it was defeated in 3 moves. Just like this battle lasted for a total of 39 battles. Han Fei had a winning streak and never lost a battle. The longest battle took Han Fei 5 moves. The kings of the inner camp were all speechless. Did this guy really want to enter the top 500 on the first day? Finally, after defeating 49 people in a row, Han Fei slightly showed a trace of fatigue. Of course, he deliberately pretended to be tired. Although his goal was to enter the top 100, he didn't have to do it so fast. No matter how talented he was, he couldn't continue doing so indefinitely. He needed some time to recover. Otherwise, how many people could easily believe that Han Fei was a newcomer with such a strong combat power that he could easily make it into the top 100? The next day, the 3rd day, until the 7th day, Han Fei greatly reduced the frequency of his battles. From defeating 49 people in a row on the first day, he now defeated about 16 people in a row every day. This implied that as the ranking of the law enforcement camp increased, Han Fei's battles became more and more difficult. This also showed that Han Fei had a limit to his strength, although no one knew where his limit was. On this day, it was finally the turn of the strong man number 827. This person had mocked Han Fei, but he never expected that it would only take 7 days for Han Fei to come to him. Han Fei said indifferently, "You, number 827, come out." Chen Xian was also in a complicated mood at the moment. How could he have expected that in just 7 days, Han Fei had fought more than 100 battles in a row and fought all the way to him? He was not afraid of fighting. He still remembered that on the first day he had mocked Han Fei. But now, Han Fei had fought more than 100 battles and he had watched more than 100 battles. Not only was he not sure that he could defeat Han Fei, but he might not even be able to make Han Fei draw his knife. Therefore, Chen Xian came out with a black face, mainly because he was afraid of losing face. He had decided that this time he must use all his secret methods, fuse with his associate spirit, and stimulate his natal item. In any case, he must make Han Fei draw his knife. On the field, Han Fei still looked indifferent, as if he didn't remember that number 827 had mocked him at all. Someone sighed. Chen Xian was too careless at that time. If Yi Fenglu becomes stronger in the future, I wonder if he will hold a grudge against him. Someone laughed. Why would he do that? Yi Fenglu is too cold and not easy to get along with. If you stand on the opposite side of him, I am afraid you will become his enemy. But I don't think he will hold a grudge just because of a few words. Someone sighed. Most importantly, he is a human being. Someone was speechless. What kind of human being is he? Even if he is a human being, so what? If he can't be used by the 10,000 Scales clan, do you think Master Primeval will allow him to join the law enforcement camp? That's true. Look, Chen Xian is going all out. Chen Xian, who had been under a lot of pressure these days, used his natal scales as soon as he came out, and the scales on his body began to glow green. Half of his body was seriously deformed, like some kind of soft mollusk. The deformed giant hand was holding a big halberd, on which the soul fire was jumping. Soul/soul-breaking armor. Chen Xian combined his soul and power with this halberd, and the way he used his power was similar to that of an immortal. But the level of power was not that high. Of course, with Chen Xian's strength, it was still extremely powerful. Although Han Fei still looked indifferent, he put his hand on the long knife. Yi Fenglu is going to use his knife? The eyes of a top-ranking expert lit up. Chen Xian is not bad. At least he can force him to use his knife. Someone chuckled. If he uses his knife, his trump card should be about to be revealed, right? Wait, that's not the posture of drawing a knife. While everyone was looking forward to it, Han Fei used the knife as a long stick and smashed down with all his strength, creating 3,000 stick shadows. Everyone heard, clang, 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 clang. The incessant and swift hammering sounds set off thousands of ripples in the air. Chen Xian only managed to hold on for less than 300 times before he started to show signs of collapsing under the barbarian attacks of countless ownerless souls. Look, there's the great path of gravity. Unfortunately, Yi Fenglu is a body cultivator and his strength is extremely strong. With the great path of gravity and the unowned souls as armor, it's only natural that Chen Xian couldn't resist it. Pooh! The power of the Monkey King's 3,000 strikes became stronger and stronger. In the end, Chen Xian didn't even have the strength to resist. If it weren't for his associated spirit, he would have been beaten to death by Han Fei. Just like that, after being whipped 500 times by Han Fei, the companion spirit was crushed, and Chen Xian's head was twisted dozens of times by Han Fei's slash. It was as if he had just done a trivial thing. Han Fei withdrew his knife and shouted as usual without looking at Chen Xian, "Next." Chen Yan, who had been observing in secret, thought for a moment. Should I let this guy beat his opponents one by one? This was an emotionless puppet. There was no fear, and no other mental activity. It seemed that for him, as long as he kept fighting, it would be enough. He was speechless. He didn't know how strong the bloodline power he had awakened was. It had only been a few days. Was he going to fight his way into the top 500? Just as Qin Yan frowned, Zhao Honghuang's voice came, "Don't worry about it. Just observe the power he shows after drawing the knife." "Yes, Master Honghuang." Chapter 2194. Just like before, Han Fei challenged the arena ranking every day. This crazy challenge lasted for more than a month. In just over a month, Han Fei directly reached the 500th place. In the law enforcement camp's inner camp, this was a record that had almost never appeared before. Even Chen Yan would take some time every day to check on Han Fei's progress. Today was the crucial moment for Han Fei to enter the top 500 of the internal camp. Therefore, as long as the experts of the internal camp hadn't gone out, they were basically here to watch the battle. In fact, among the top 500 of the internal camp, less than 300 were still in the camp. The others had all gone to participate in various tasks. Therefore, the top 500 was not the key. This ranking only represented Han Fei's potential in the scavenger city. To enter the top 500 of the internal camp, it meant that Han Fei was qualified to be one of the top experts in the scavenger city. The opportunities and strength after opening the sky would be greater. In fact, those who could enter the internal camp all had the possibility of opening the sky. However, those who could really be favored were the top 100. At this moment, standing in front of Han Fei was a king of the 10,000 Scales clan who exuded a strong murderous aura. This person must have practiced some kind of strange technique to have such an imposing manner. The man said, "The more you fight, the slower your speed will be. At this point, you can only fight 6 people a day. I may not win, but I don't believe you can enter the top 100. So let's fight." A dark red giant axe appeared in this person's hand, and with the giant axe, a black chain appeared. Hula, this person grasped the chain and waved it in an arc. His strength was so great that it was comparable to 2 Mengs. Han Fei wanted to rush forward directly, but this person deliberately showed a flaw. In his left hand, there was a chain. Han Fei raised his long knife and blocked the attack. Clang! Han Fei's figure was knocked dozens of meters away. After taking this blow, Han Fei couldn't help but realize that this giant axe had the ability to absorb strength. Interesting. You're absorbing my power to increase your own. After the tentative attack, seeing that Han Fei didn't attack, the man suddenly took back the giant axe and held it in his hand. At that moment, Han Fei saw that his left hand was also holding a dark red giant axe. Your knife has entered the way of heaven. Let's see what it feels like to have an axe enter the way of heaven. Buzz, behind this person, a giant shadow condensed, and the 2 axes slashed furiously. It seemed as if the sky had split open a beam of light. The might of the great path descended, and under the burst of evil chi, even Han Fei was a little surprised. This person's evil chi was really heavy. Among the spectating experts, someone smiled faintly and said, "Guameng once went to the boundless mining area to further his studies. All these years, he has been in seclusion. Their true strength had long since surpassed 500. I wonder if Yi Fenglu can block this axe." But after seeing this axe, Han Fei knew that he couldn't keep acting anymore. This person's strength was definitely not in the top 500. Compared to the people before him, this person's strength had almost doubled. Han Fei didn't believe that any random king ranked in the top 500 could launch such an attack. In this strike, a baleful aura seeped into one's soul and mixed with power. It was augmented by the will of the heavenly Tao. Han Fei guessed that this person was in the top 200, but it didn't make sense for him to stay in the top 500. Whoosh! He raised his hand and pried open the scabbard with his thumb. All of a sudden, everyone's eyes widened. Was this guy finally going to use his blade? Damn, he has been holding back for so long. Is he raising a blade again? In such a short time, he shouldn't be raising a blade. It should be his enlightenment in the scavenger arena. Some of the top 300 powerhouses looked solemn. I can't take Guameng's axe. He has been in seclusion since he came back from the boundless mining area. I didn't expect him to hide so deeply. Someone nodded. Yes, this axe has been integrated with the heavenly Tao. It's impossible to tell whether it is his own Tao or the heavenly Tao. Clang! Like the friction of metal, Han Fei held the scabbard in one hand and the knife in the other. The sound of drawing the long knife seemed to ring for a long time, but in fact, it was only a moment. The shining knife light, before the knife was completely unsheathed, formed a knife prison within 1,000 kilometers, drawing everything into a knife. At the moment the long knife was drawn, many people's minds were still attracted by the moment when Han Fei drew the knife, as if Han Fei's knife would never be finished. Draw technique. When the draw technique and the blade purgatory were integrated, at that moment, The kings couldn't tell whether Han Fei had drawn the knife or whether Han Fei had hidden billions of knife light in the scabbard. Clang, the knife and the axe collided, clanging and clanging. At that moment, the sky and the earth changed color, and streams of light flew everywhere. It seemed that the two hadn't decided the winner yet, but billions of knife light swept the place where Guomeng was. Puff, 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 knife marks and cracks kept appearing on Guomeng's body, 1 into 10, 10 into 100, and then densely covering Guomeng's body. And there was also a trace of blood on the corner of Han Fei's mouth. At that moment, in the inner camp, a strong master suddenly stood up, his eyes flashing. Both of them have merged with the Tao? Only then did one of the women open her eyes slightly. In terms of this attack alone, these two are close to the top 100. It's a pity that such an attack needs a long time to be launched. So, their real combat power is between the top 100 and the top 200. Crack! Suddenly, Guomeng felt a sense of powerlessness from the giant axes. He put the two axes together, and a stream of immortal spiritual energy burst out, barely blocking Han Fei's knife, and flew back 10,000 kilometers. When he stopped, Guomeng narrowed his eyes, looked at the cracked giant axe in his hand, and slowly put it away. "But you win this battle," someone exclaimed. "Guomeng, did you admit defeat?" Guomeng sneered. "It's just a competition. Is it more important than my axe?" Then Guomeng glanced at Han Fei. "I'm afraid your knife is almost the same, right?" Because Han Fei had put away his knife, others couldn't see it, but according to Guomeng, it seemed that Han Fei didn't win anyway. So someone breathed a sigh of relief. "Phew, I thought he was going to win again. It seems that he will finally stop in the top 500. Stop? I don't know where you get the confidence to say that. The strength of these two people has obviously exceeded the top 500. Even if they rise by 200 places, no one will say anything. How dare you say that? So strong? Of course, look at their expressions. Do they look relaxed?" Someone couldn't help but glance at the experts in the top 500, only to find that most of them looked solemn as if they were still recalling the confrontation just now. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared. The kings immediately cupped their hands. "Greetings, Lord Law Enforcer." Chen Yen nodded slightly, then glanced at Guomeng and Han Fei, and then said, "Guomeng has merged with the way of heaven and man. According to the previous strength test, he ranks 237th in the internal camp. Any objections?" As he spoke, Chen Yen looked at one person, who was the strong man ranked 237th, but his strength had not completely merged with the way of heaven and man. The man hurriedly said, "Lord Law Enforcer, I have no objections." Chen Yen continued, "Yi Fenglu has merged with the way of heaven and man. This battle against Guomeng. Although he has a slight upper hand, he is suspected of raising a knife. He ranks 238th in the internal camp. Any objections?" The strong man who had just been knocked down by Guomeng smiled bitterly and said again, "I have no objections." He was also speechless and took 2 steps back inexplicably. However, as Chen Yen said, whether it was Guomeng or Yi Fenglu, he couldn't withstand the power they just showed. Even if he managed to withstand it, he wouldn't be able to fight again. Therefore, he was convinced by the ranking this time. Then Chen Yen said, "Yi Feng, come with me." Originally, Chen Yen didn't want everyone to see him give special treatment to Yi Fenglu, but he had no choice. This was Master Primordial's order. After a moment, in the undersea jungle of the law enforcement camp, Chen Yen brought Han Fei here. Chen Yen said, "Master Primordial, Yi Fenglu is here. But let him come in." Chen Yen looked at Han Fei. "Boy, you have a good opportunity. Go." When Han Fei met Zhao Honghuang again, the latter's eyes were fixed on Han Fei for a full 10 minutes. But Han Fei was unmoved. He said, "I don't believe that you can see through me." Sure enough, after 10 minutes, Zhao Honghuang finally withdrew his scrutinizing gaze and said indifferently, "Who taught you how to use a knife?" Han Fei said, "Master Primordial, I once saw a knife in my inherited memory. I visualized it every day to enter this realm." Zhao Honghuang nodded slightly. If this was the case, it made sense. However, from another perspective, if Han Fei got it from his inherited memory, then Han Fei was no longer completely a human. He could be said to be half beast and half human. If his bloodline returned to normal in the future, he might directly become an octopus. Zhao Honghuang said, "There's no need to carry out the internal camp challenge for the time being. I'll give you an opportunity to obtain the world origin fruit. Do you want it?" Han Fei suddenly raised his head, his eyes gleaming. Zhao Honghuang was very satisfied with Han Fei's expression. He said leisurely, "The world origin fruit will only grow in the awakened primitive graveyard and the starting ground. In the chaotic wasteland, this kind of awakened land is extremely difficult to find. Every place that came back to life was found by someone who had paid a huge price. So, I can't give it to you easily." Han Fei frowned, not knowing what Zhao Honghuang was up to. "Please enlighten me, Master Primordial." Zhao Honghuang picked up a red pill. "I don't believe in absolute loyalty. Even the people of the 10,000 Scales clan don't have absolute loyalty. If you want an opportunity, take this 10th level pill." Chapter 2195. When Han Fei saw the pill, he didn't know what it was, nor did he care why it was a 10th level tribulation pill, but he knew that it was definitely not a good thing. As Zhao Honghuang said, he didn't believe in absolute loyalty, so he had to control himself with pills. This should have been a despicable thing to do, but in the world of cultivators, even though it was clearly placed in front of you, it seemed like it was only natural. After Han Fei took the pill, information popped up in his eyes. Names: 10th level tribulation pill, pseudo-divinity pill, blood-devouring pill. Introduction: An alchemist refined a 9th level tribulation pill with the origin of the world. It's also called a 10th level tribulation pill. This pill contains great energy and the power of Tao, as well as terrifying hellfire poison. After taking it, your body's potential will be stimulated, and the hellfire poison will break out intermittently. The hellfire poison will break out, the extraterrestrial demons will come, and the hellfire poison will burn. If you don't get rid of the hellfire poison after taking this pill, you won't be able to open the sky. Level Sky Splitter Quality High Quality contains the aura of the way of heaven. Remarks: This pill can greatly stimulate your potential, but it will also stop you before you open the sky. When Han Fei saw the 10th level tribulation pill, his heart sank. Zhao Honghuang is indeed not a good guy. Zhao Honghuang said, "This pill is great nourishment, but it is also a great poison. It's made of the origin of the world and can greatly stimulate your potential. However, it also contains a great poison. The consequence of stimulating your potential will be the baptism of the extraterrestrial demons and the hellfire poison. Without a specific antidote, it's hard for a pioneer sea-state cultivator to resist such a great poison." Then, Zhao Honghuang took out a bottle. "This is an antidote. It can relieve the pain of the pill. However, it can only relieve your pain for 100 years at most. There's no free opportunity in the world. If you want to get a great opportunity from me, you must bear the corresponding consequences. Do you dare to use this pill?" This was a very tacky trick, but it was very good at manipulating people around him. If it had been anyone else, they would have risked their lives for Zhao Honghuang's tricks. Whether they liked it or not, they would be absolutely loyal to Zhao Honghuang and the 10,000 Scale clan. However, Han Fei was different. He was a pioneer sea-state cultivator. Furthermore, he could use the yin-yang millstone to refine the karmic fire poison from the pill. At the very least, under the illumination of his heavenly awakening divine technique, what could a mere great Tao pill poison do? This thing was indeed invincible for ordinary cultivators in the pioneer sea-state, but for Han Fei, it was just a big supplement pill. Not to mention one, he could eat 10 without any problem. Of course, this kind of grade 10 tribulation pill was very rare. Since it could be refined using the world's source energy, it was certain that this pill could stimulate one's potential. What Han Fei needed most now was the world origin, so he swallowed the 10th grade tribulation pill without hesitation. Seeing that Han Fei swallowed the poisonous pill expressionlessly, Zhao Honghuang was actually a little surprised. In his opinion, Han Fei was indeed a top heavenly talent. It was actually quite a pity for such a heavens chosen to consume this pill now. Although he was able to cure the pill in the end, the residual pill poison was not easy to remove. A Pioneer C state cultivator might not be able to see it, but once he reached the Pioneer C state, it would definitely affect his potential. However, this was not Zhao Honghuang's concern. Although he said that he did not have absolute trust in Yi Fenglu, he still felt that Yi Fenglu was a human after all. He did not believe that Yi Fenglu had no ties with the human race. Therefore, the best way was to control Yi Fenglu. As long as he was under control, the scavenger city would only have one more powerful Pioneer C state cultivator in the future, which should be useful for many years. Seeing that Han Fei swallowed the 10th grade tribulation pill without hesitation, Zhao Honghuang threw the antidote to him and said, "Take it when the poison takes effect." Han Fei cupped his fists. "Master Honghuang, may I know what the opportunity is?" Han Fei's attitude was that he wanted to become stronger, and Zhao Honghuang was glad that Han Fei was so focused. He said, "Digest the effect of the 10th grade tribulation pill first. You won't be able to digest it without a year or two. 3 years later, I'll give you the opportunity." "Thank you, Master Honghuang." After Han Fei left, Chen Yan appeared quietly. Chen Yan said, "Master Honghuang, it seems that this Yi Fenglu is really loyal. He ate the blood-devouring pill without thinking about the consequences. It seems that he's ready to go all the way." Zhao Honghuang nodded slightly. "That's good. Otherwise, he'll become a traitor. By the way, the number 9 revival land should be open in 3 years, right?" Chen Yan couldn't help but look at Zhao Honghuang and said in surprise, "Master Honghuang, do you mean to let him go to the number 9 revival land?" However, Yi Fenglu's current strength hasn't entered the top 100 yet. Although the number 9 revival land is ordinary, it's the selection ground, right? It's the target that the 3 families are competing for. Usually, the top kings are dispatched. Isn't he a little weak if he enters now? Zhao Honghuang shook his head indifferently. "It doesn't matter. Although the blood-devouring pill is not good, it's good at stimulating potential. It's equivalent to 2 world origin fruits. If he uses it, he'll naturally experience it. Besides, do you really think this kid has fully unleashed his strength? Hasn't he?" Chen Yan was a little surprised. Judging from the battle between Han Fei and Guomeng just now, Han Fei's strength seemed to have reached its limit. Even if he was stronger than Guomeng, he wasn't much stronger. However, Zhao Honghuang said, "Don't forget, he's a heavenly meridian. Given the heavenly vein's control over energy, he should be able to unleash that attack again." Hiss, Chen Yan's heart did a flip. He seemed to have forgotten about this. A heavenly meridian had an extremely strong recovery ability, and they were far superior to others in terms of spiritual energy, chaotic energy, and power operation. Chen Yan calculated that even if Yi Fenglu couldn't enter the top 100 now, he would probably be able to in 3 years after digesting the blood-devouring pill. Chen Yan immediately cupped his hands. Master Honghuang is wise. After taking the blood-devouring pill, Han Fei returned to the number 238 cave residence that he had just conquered after returning to the inner camp. As soon as Han Fei entered the cave residence, he sensed that it was a place where the earth vein spring was surging, and there was an indescribable vitality flowing in this place. This vitality could attract spiritual energy, and even the power to connect the infinite void and draw out chaotic energy. Han Fei, on the other hand, closed the barrier and sat cross-legged. He had already sensed that a weird power seemed to be drilling into his limbs and his 2 spiritual meridians. Yin-Yang Grindstone. In the blink of an eye, the moment the Yin-Yang Millstone appeared in Han Fei's dantian, the infinite hellfire poison of the blood-devouring pill and even the power of the world origin gathered from the Yin-Yang Millstone. Crack, crack, crack. When all the poison in his body was absorbed by the Yin-Yang Grindstone, Han Fei was slightly relieved. 3 days later, in the Yin-Yang Grindstone, a strange greenish-yellow poison emerged. In Han Fei's hand, he was holding a piece of liquid divine light that looked like plasticine. When he first saw the liquid divine light, he had already tried it many times and figured out how to make it. He stuffed the milky white and holy liquid divine light into his mouth. It could be said that every pore on Han Fei's body was emitting brilliance. The karmic fire poison slowly dissipated under the purification of a large amount of divine light. Apocalypse divine technique. In this way, swallowing the blood-devouring pill and swallowing the world origin were two different concepts. The pill was complicated, and the effect of the medicine couldn't be released directly. It took Han Fei more than 3 months to completely absorb the blood-devouring pill without any side effects. When Han Fei opened his eyes again, the corners of his mouth curled up. It seems that this 10th grade tribulation pill is indeed very effective. It has improved my potential and comprehensive strength by almost 10%. In this case, if I have 10 or a dozen of these 10th grade tribulation pills, I should be able to fully unleash the potential of my current sea of origin. If he wanted to exchange it for the world origin fruit, then the number of world origin fruits would probably go up to 20. 3 years later, as Zhao Honghuang and Chen Yan expected, Han Fei finally came out of seclusion. When Han Fei came out of seclusion, many people were taken aback. Someone was speechless. This guy is out of seclusion. Is he going to challenge again? Someone exclaimed, it seems that this guy is always fighting in seclusion. He has no free time at all. If he keeps fighting like this, I'm afraid he won't stop even if he makes it to the top 100. However, this time, it was out of everyone's expectation. Hardly had Han Fei come out of seclusion when he saw a woman from the 10,000 Scales clan who was wearing a mask and had an enchanting posture, a muscular man who was wearing a heavy armor and holding an iron column, and a skinny man from the Blade clan who had both hands as blades walked over. Among the three of them, the woman in the lead was from the 10,000 Scale clan. She was probably the most beautiful woman Han Fei had ever seen. Unfortunately, the upper half of her face was covered by a mask. The muscular man was also from the 10,000 Scale clan, but his aura was on a completely different level from Tu Meng's. Han Fei thought, if I'm not mistaken, these two are both in the top 100. And the man from the Blade clan isn't simple either. Usually, only people from the 10,000 Scale clan were qualified to enter the law enforcement camp. It wouldn't be easy for an outsider from the Blade clan to get in. Someone exclaimed, by Ran Ran, Ghost Blade, Tian Hong? Why are they here? The strongest 3 from the first team. When did they come back? Why would the top 10 be interested in the leaf wind flu? Chapter 2196. Han Fei didn't know these 3 people, mainly because he hadn't made it to the top 100 yet. However, even if he didn't know them, Han Fei could feel the difference in their power and aura. That was a real opportunity. Others might not know it, but how could Han Fei not know it? Han Fei was a little surprised. This opportunity was probably comparable to the one he had when he entered the peak level of the Sea Expansion Realm. When Han Fei first entered the peak level of the Sea Expansion Realm, he didn't understand the Tao or the Sky Expansion Realm. But his bloodline didn't allow him to keep a low profile. He was not yet at the peak level of the Sea Expansion Realm, but he already dared to fight with the Sky Expansion Realm. When he reached the peak level of the Sea Expansion Realm, he could actually fight the Sky Expansion Realm alone. And these 3 people in front of him, even if they weren't as strong as he was, were probably not far behind. Han Fei thought for a moment. There couldn't be many people like them. Even though the ocean realm was much more advanced than the chaotic ocean, the opportunities he had back then might not be any less than these people. Besides, he had the demon purification pot, so these 3 people's opportunities were comparable to his own. They were definitely lucky. The woman in the lead was wearing a long dress with a slit in the middle. She was hugging her smooth thighs. But how could the 10,000 Scale clan have smooth thighs? Han Fei took a closer look and found that the scales on this woman's body were so delicate that they were almost undetectable, like smooth skin. Thud, when the 3 of them were dozens of meters away from Han Fei, the guy in the giant armor pressed the Vajra pillar on the ground, and the air rippled at Han Fei. It seemed to be reminding Han Fei not to stare blindly. Why are you staring at her thighs? Han Fei's expression did not change at all. His eyes slowly moved away from the woman's thighs. He was not at all embarrassed that he had been exposed. After the woman stood still, she put one hand on her waist and slightly stretched one leg, as if she were showing off her thighs. She said, "Are you Yi Fenglu?" Her voice was pure and emotionless. Or rather, these three people didn't have any feelings. They felt they were the same as the Yi Fenglu that Han Fei was pretending to be. Han Fei said indifferently, "It's me." The woman slightly raised her right hand that was hanging casually and hooked two fingers. "Hit me." Han Fei was puzzled. What kind of thing is this? Swish, a cross blade was reflected directly in front of Han Fei. It was so fast that many people didn't even see who attacked. Han Fei was the only one who saw it clearly. The expert from the Blade clan had attacked in an instant just now. He was so fast that he didn't even leave a shadow when he raised his blade. Han Fei didn't want to be outdone. "You came fast, but so did I." He reached out with his right hand, grabbed a saber from the void, and counterattacked. It looked like Han Fei stretched out his right hand and tore the cross blade. Ding! When the saber lights collided, an invisible barrier bloomed in the surroundings, trapping the four people inside. Han Fei sensed the power of the expert from the Blade clan. He thought to himself, "This is definitely not an ordinary top 100 king. This casual attack can't be ranked low." Han Fei guessed that if these people were not among the top 10 of the internal camp, he would immediately change his opinion about the Sea Realm. Even now, he was still suspicious. Could it be that the Sea Realm was really full of monsters? How could a single force have so many experts of this level? Since they could be so strong now, it meant that all three of them had the strength to fight against a heaven-opening state expert. In fact, a weak heaven-opening stage cultivator might not even be a match for any one of the three of them. He was thinking that if he was too strong now, it might be a bit exaggerated to be able to fight against the three of them. However, it shouldn't be a problem for him to resist. After all, he had already reached the 238th place and eaten a 10th grade tribulation pill. With his potential stimulated, it shouldn't be a problem for him to show his combat ability that could barely make it into the top 100. Han Fei tore the cross blade with one hand, and the man from the Blade clan dashed forward with the saber in his hand as fast as a mystic light. And when Han Fei tore the cross blade, he drew out a long saber with his left hand. With the saber in his hand, billions of saber lights appeared and collided with each other in the barrier. In the blink of an eye, Han Fei and the man from the Blade clan had exchanged over 1,000 moves. After 1,000 moves, blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. Countless kings in the internal camp of the law enforcement camp were dumbfounded. What? He survived the Ghost Blade saber? It had only been 3 months. Could it be that he had obtained some kind of great opportunity? How could he resist the Ghost Blade's attack? No, the Ghost Blade didn't seem to be using his full strength. It was more like a test. Otherwise, Yi Fenglu wouldn't have been able to resist it with his current ranking. Someone wondered, but even if it's just a test, Yi Fenglu seems to be stronger than before. Could it be that the law enforcer secretly gave him some opportunities? I heard that Yi Fenglu broke through the Death God Mountain in the outer camp, and the law enforcer rewarded him with a world origin fruit. Someone guessed, I guess Yi Fenglu must have had some opportunities, but even if he was given another world origin fruit, his growth shouldn't be so fast, right? What if there are two? Everyone. These people still underestimated Han Fei. It should be noted that in the outer camp, Han Fei only took 10 years to reach the 3,000th place in the arena, and he also broke through the Death Mountain. After entering the inner camp, he fought all the way to the 238th place. Who would believe such strength advancement? It was impossible that Han Fei didn't make any progress in the 3 years in the internal camp. It was just that ordinary heavenly talents couldn't understand it. The Ghost Blade from the Blade clan retreated, and the armored man from the 10,000 Scale clan next to the woman attacked. The man directly attacked Han Fei with the King Kong Iron Pillar. He didn't use any fancy moves. He just wanted to see how much energy Han Fei had. Han Fei also found something wrong. The man from the Blade clan didn't use his full strength. He was just testing his strength. Although he didn't know who these people were, Han Fei thought it might be related to what he was going to do next. So, he didn't ask stupid questions like, "Who are you?" Since they wanted to fight, he might as well fight. Why did he need a reason to fight? Thud. Han Fei attacked. A golden fist mark burst out and pressed against the other end of the King Kong iron pillar, as if he wanted to compete with this man in strength. However, the horrifying ripples swept in all directions. The scales on Han Fei's body instantly glowed red, as if a primeval force had burst out. Even so, Han Fei pretended to retreat 100 meters, and cracks appeared under his feet. Before, the lords all saw Han Fei fighting all the way and nobody was a match for him. But after seeing it today, he felt that his anger had been vented. In their eyes, Han Fei's combat ability, strength, and speed were all outclassed. Only a few people didn't feel the thrill of Han Fei's defeat, because they knew that Han Fei's strength must have reached an unimaginable level to be able to block the attacks of those two. Seeing that Han Fei wouldn't admit defeat, red light glowed from his body, and a stream of primeval force appeared. Bam! The seawater exploded like a compressed nuclear explosion. Han Fei had already dashed forward crazily. The phantom of a dragon merged with his arm, and the crazy force shook the entire spiritual barrier. Rumble! The armored man held the rod with both hands and slammed it horizontally. Crack, crack, cracked. The terrifying force caused the entire spiritual barrier to be full of cracks. Bam! In the surging waves, a figure bumped into the spiritual barrier. It was none other than Han Fei. Someone said, "As I expected, Han Fei's strength is much weaker than Tian Hong's." Someone said speechlessly, "Aren't you talking nonsense? If his current strength is comparable to Tian Hong's, why does he still want to enter the top 10? Han Fei stepped on the spiritual barrier, intending to attack again. Okay. With a soft shout, the battle seemed to be over. When the waves in the spiritual barrier subsided, everyone saw that there was also a scratch under Tian Hong's feet, which was a kilometer long. At this time, they didn't know how to measure Han Fei's strength. Han Fei pointed at the three of them and said indifferently, "What do you mean?" The woman in the lead said, "Wait outside the city in 7 days. We'll take you on a mission for 3 years. You'd better do it in advance." After that, the three of them turned around and left without even saying who they were. Han Fei frowned. It seemed that the opportunity had come. However, these so-called opportunities should be the opportunities of the Pioneer Sea realm after all. Unless it involved the origin of the world, it was meaningless to him. He even wondered if he should take the opportunity to kill these people. These people were indeed true heaven's prides. With their abilities, it was already not bad for them to be this strong. After these people left, a voice rang leisurely beside Han Fei. Han Fei turned his head. Wasn't that Guomeng who had fought with him before? Guomeng said, "That woman, by Ran, the strongest in the internal camp, has only fought a few times. The one from the Blade clan is called Ghost Blade, ranked 7th and the main attacker in the first team. The Iron Man, ranked 8th, is called Tian Hong, the strongest body-tempering cultivator in the internal camp. They belong to the first squad of the internal camp. They have always been mysterious. They must have taken a fancy to you because of your potential." Han Fei nodded slightly, thought for a moment, and walked straight out of the outer camp. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.